Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end. Now let's get started. Hello all, I am Izuka Midoriya. I'm here to tell you the story of how myself and my wife Momo Yairozu not only were taken from this world, but returned after years of hell with incredible powers. How we saved this world from all manner of villains. Where do we begin our story? Why at the beginning, of course. I was born the son of Inko and Hisashi Midoriya. Hard-working husband and wife. Not poor, but not rich either. Momo was born the daughter and heiress of a Yairozu fortune. Her parents were Ina and Funaki Yairozu. They were the richest family in all Japan. Some of you may ask what we had in common. Well, in our world, 80% of the population have special powers they were born with called quirks. But myself and Momo, we were part of the 20% born without quirks. Our world hates those without quirks. We lived different lives, though. I was abused and bullied until I was 10. Momo, however, being from a wealthy family, wasn't bullied, abused, or neglected. But just like myself at the age of 10, was teleported to another planet. This planet was pure hell. For years, we were subjected to hellish tortures. Our one saving grace was that they were not interested in raping us. But they did horrors upon us that would scar even AFO's devious mind. For 6 years, we were sliced up, torn apart, burnt, shot, stabbed, drowned, fed to wild animals, etc., etc., etc. See, the worst part of this world was we were killed millions of times, but an hour later, we were brought back to life. 2 years, and I demanded they torture me for both of us. I couldn't watch Momo be hurt anymore. They agreed temporarily. For 3 years, I was their sole victim, but they had enough and tortured us both yet again for the final year. However, we were freed from our hell by a god who saw our torment and intervened. This god restored our bodies completely and our minds. I was now 6 feet 1 inch, 225 pounds, and Momo was 5 feet 7 inches and 130 pounds. We still remember all the tortures, but it doesn't affect us like it would others. We are affected, yes, but not to the degree we were left dribbling messes on the floor. Who are you? I asked the being as I stood in front of Momo to protect her from whatever tortures it had planned. Fear not, humans. I am a god Zorvance. I rescued you from the planet you were on. You both are needed for the safety of your birth planet, said the god Zorvance. What? But how? We have no power. What can we do? Asked Momo as she hid behind me. The being smiled at us. That is where I come in, humans. I will grant you incredible powers. Each of you will gain powers. You both won't have all the same powers, but they will help you become the heroes your Earth needs. You will instantly gain them and know how to use them to their fullest extent. Use these powers to save your world, as you two are the only ones capable of doing so. Your fates and planet have been tampered with by incredibly powerful dark forces, so strong that no gods can enter them. You two are our only hope to restore the natural order of things. Will you do this for us? We looked at each other and nodded. Yes, Sir Zorvance. We will do what you request of us. We will save our planet from the evils that control it. We say in unison. Zorvance smiles. Thank you, human children. Save your planet, he said, placing a hand on each of our heads. We both felt the near limitless power course into our bodies and instantly knew how to use them. There we go. These powers are yours to use to save the Earth. Do your best, children of man, he said as we both imagined the same place on Earth and teleported to it. However, it wasn't like it should have been. We teleported to what should have been UA High, but instead it was just ruins. Aizu, what happened here? Asked Momo. I thought I did not know Momo, but if this is UA, then that means most of the world's heroes have been killed or captured. We should check and see if there is anything to help us understand the events that transpired while we were gone. I said somberly. Before we left, Momo used her power of creation to create clothing for us to wear, as well as some weapons. I had been gifted mastery with dual sword wielding, and combined with my energy manipulation, I could fire off energy blasts as well from my hands or the swords. I chose 2 of her near indestructible dentral katanas. Momo was now a master with spears, so she created a special dentral spear that could store my energy inside it and fire off blasts from the tip. Armed and clothed, we made our way through the ruined UA. We searched for a while before we suddenly hear shouts up ahead. We took our weapons and ran ahead silently. We found Nizu, the former principal of UA, being chased by what appeared to be a demonic force. I couldn't stand by and watch them catch him. The look of fear in his eyes resonated with me from our time back on that hell planet. Momo and I both had telepathy and mind reading. We communicated a plan where I'd attack the foes and she would protect Nizu. We nodded and I ran ahead, blades at the ready. Nizu, run, get behind Momo. We'll protect you. I yelled as I ran past him and attacked our foes. I was doing fairly well, but still a few got by me before I started using more of my energy manipulation. I fired energy blasts and slashes and slowly whittled down the numbers as Momo took out the ones who got past me. After about 30 minutes of fighting, we managed to win the day. I sheathed my blades and went back to Momo and Nizu. Thank you both. Without you, I surely would have met my end. But who are you? Asked Nizu. We smiled. You're welcome, Nizu. I am Izuka Midoriya. This lovely girl beside me is Momo Yaoyorozu. We just recently escaped the hell plane and were given powers to save the Earth. We spent one big explanation later. My word, that is most extraordinary. I pray you two will be able to do as such, as over 60% of the Earth's population has been killed. Even us heroes weren't of much use. I fear only about 10% of the heroes in this world still live, if that. I myself am the only known surviving UA teacher. Even the top 10 have died. That took us by surprise. Not even All Might was alive. So it's basically just us? Asked Momo, scared. I grabbed her shoulder. As long as you're beside me, Momo, I know we will be able to save our world. I had spent 6 years at that point protecting her. I would not ever let harm befall her again if I can help it. I had not told her my feelings for her yet, as I was afraid it would change everything. Thank you, Izu. That is very reassuring. Nizu smiled at us. For two yous who spent almost half their lives in hell, you two are very brave to be entire world's worth of enemies. I smiled as I rubbed the back of my neck. Well, to be honest, I had been in hell since I was 4 and diagnosed quirkless. Only those 6 years of hell until I turned 10 were from kids using their quirks on me. Momo here was only tortured for 3 years of her life. Well, physically anyway. Mentally, she suffered as she watched me willingly accept the tortures to protect her. Momo smiled sadly as she blushed. Izu here is a very courageous young man, Nizu. He has undying will and determination. Without him, I'd have lost my sanity and will to live long ago. I smiled sheepishly. Very well. With you two having all that power, I know we can save our planet. But where do we go from here? Nizu asked as I thought about it. We'll start with freeing Muzutafu. Once we have saved this place, we will work our way through each city in every prefecture. After saving Japan, we will make our way to other countries. No matter how long it takes, we will save our world. Nizu smiled. Well, it's actually a well-thought-out strategy. Start small and work our way up. We should stick together until at least all of Muzutafu is freed. As right now, with only 3, we won't be able to do much if fighting separately. I chuckled at that. Maybe, but we need to gather allies and free any capture we find along the way. But I think we should find a spot to use as a base here. I can make barriers, but I'd rather wait until we have cleared all of UA campus of opponents first, as the barrier won't function unless all demonic forces have been dispatched first. Momo smiled as she spoke. I'm always amazed at how fast you can understand things, Izu. You can use your barrier after we clear the area, then we can rest. How large are your barriers? I smiled. I can make them any size up to 10 kilometers easily, but I want to make a 2 kilometers barrier, so we have a large enough space for any allies or civilians in need of rescue in Muzutafu. Would that suffice? Nizu was in awe. Wait, you can make them even larger? I nodded. Right now I can make up to a 10 kilometers one if need be, but larger than that would require too much energy for me at present. Zorvants restored our bodies, but even so, we aren't yet to full strength. Both were surprised at the barrier power I had, as well how I thought in advance the drawback of larger barriers. We made a plan and started working our way out of the ruined UA building. After about 35 minutes, we finally made it outside, but we 3 were in for a huge surprise. Apparently, the demonic forces were notified of mine and Momo's saving of Nizu. I sighed as I unsheathed my katanas as Momo readied her spear, and Nizu, with some special grenades and other long-range weapons, stood behind us. These foes were much stronger than the ones we faced. So I'll take the 5,000 on the right, Momo gets the 5,000 on the left, and when they finish cleaning our vital fluid off their weapons, Nizu gets roasted. Sound like a plan? I said, smiling. Nizu laughed darkly. Well, at least I die warm, I guess. Momo sighed. Can you be serious, please? I shrugged as I started charging energy into my katanas and her spear. Probably, but then the readers won't read much. They both deadpanned at me. Oh, fine. I'll tank. Momo used the energy blast, and when opponents get in range, stick the monsters, and Nizu throw the grenades as far out away from us as you can, preferably to the side to try and bottleneck them, then the laser rifles to take out their long-range fighters. Does that work, Momo? She smiled. See, that's an actual plan. Still, can we even take them all on, Aizu? I shrugged. Only way to know is to try. I can sense their energy now, so if either of you get overrun, I'll help out. I said, smiling at them. I winked at Momo as she flushed red and then bolted forward, using energy slashes to take out as many as I could before they got a chance to prepare. The battle started out hard as I had to constantly fire off attacks, then warp to defend Momo and Nizu. Nizu had done a good job taking down the long-range fighters and bottlenecking the opposition. Momo made quick work of the mid-range fighters between her and myself. We slowly were making headway when a powerful foe rushed us. I slashed at him, but he managed to duck my blades and sneak past me, but I didn't have much choice as I was constantly fighting massive waves of enemies. Momo had a very difficult time landing attacks on the guy, and Nizu was forced to focus on him too. I got angry and used my elemental manipulation to fire off a massive lightning blast in front of me, taking down a large enough number to warp back and fight beside Momo. This dude was a freaking beast. We landed numerous blows on him, but he just ate the attacks like he was being hit with twigs. Momo, blast him, I got a plan. I yelled as Nizu fired off his lasers at the opponents that started rushing us. Momo fired off her max power blast, and while it didn't do much to him, the foes behind him took quite a bit. She jumped back as I fired a powerful fire attack with one hand and a strong lightning blast with the other. I didn't kill the prick with that, but took out a huge number of foes behind him. I took my blades out and charged energy and rushed him before he could regain his balance, and slashed 7 massive energy slashes at him, destroying his armor, and Nizu fired off a few laser shots at his head and heart. Finally, the idiot went down, and we could catch our breath for a second. Jesus Christ, said Momo between breaths. No, I'm Izuku, not Jesus. For Jesus, dial 5 and request a priest to molest your son. I said, making her and Nizu laugh. We had taken down well over half their forces by this point, so they stayed back for a bit. So Izuku. Now what? Asked Nizu as Momo created some more weapons for him. Hey Momo, can you make portable automatic laser turrets that can fire at our enemies without us using them? She looked at me and blushed. You could have requested that sooner, right? I laughed. Well, excuse me, princess, but where could we have put them that didn't make them target me, or you're fine? She blushed hard before starting to make the turrets. Stop teasing me, Aizu. Just rest while I make these things, she said as she produced several small turrets. I picked them up and set them up so that we wouldn't be caught in the line of fire. Seriously, are you two married or something? Asked Nizu as I blushed, and Momo just stood still for a second. No, we're just friends. Come on, hurry up, Momo, before they decide to charge us. She was muttering something as she produced a few more turrets, both laser and rocket ones. After placing dozens of turrets, Momo and Nizu, luckily we bought ourselves a pretty good rest period. Geez, I hope these guys give up soon, I said as the turrets did their work. Momo and I were exhausted. Nizu luckily had not had to do much melee combat, so he was not as tired as us. Definitely Aizu. We have to find some food and other supplies soon, or we'll be unable to get any energy back to fight. I nodded before I stopped. Nizu, are there any food storages nearby? He blinked at me and said there was a fully stocked bunker about 1 kilometer behind us in the woods. Can you two hold back any stragglers while I make us a path to the bunker? They looked nervously at one another. Guys, I won't go unless you think you can handle things for now. Better yet, you two pull vanguard and work on the ones that could catch up while making your way there, and I will rush ahead and take down any between here and there. Would that work? This they felt more confident in doing, as I was presently the best option for combat. With the amount of turrets, we didn't have to worry about being snuck up from behind if we did this, so it wasn't a terrible plan, but best we had at present. Once we've cleared out everything around the bunker, I'll make a barrier about 10 meters larger than the bunker, so we'll be able to rest for the night. When we get there, Momo, make the turrets to help impede enemy forces as I work my magic on him. I said as I took off, rushing a few hundred meters at a time, and took down any opposition until they'd arrived and placed some defenses down. After about 30 minutes later, we had reached the bunker and cleared out. I made the barrier, and soon as it was up, I passed right into the Shadow Realm. I woke up, I think an hour later in a bed with a rag on my head, and saw both Momo and Nizu. We were inside the bunker, and the barrier worked perfectly. "Hey, Aizu, are you all right?" I groaned as I sat up. "What happened?" Nizu chirped, "And you got us to the bunker and was able to make a barrier, but you were so exhausted you passed out once it was finished. Momo was able to carry you inside, and we set you in one of the rooms. This is a relatively large bunker, so we have several rooms here. We have already eaten, so I'll grab you some food and let you two rest." With that, he took off toward the kitchen area. "You scared the hell out of me, you know that, Izuku," growled Momo. I sighed. "I'm sorry, Momo, but I had to do that, or else we would have been overrun. I didn't mean to make you upset. Just we had no other choice," I said sadly. She sat next to me and leaned over, putting her head on my shoulder. "You've always been like that, Izuku. More concerned with my safety than your own. I wish you'd remember to take your safety into account too sometimes. I know we both have regeneration factors, but seriously, we can't come back from death here. We die here, and that's all," she wrote Aizu. I could feel her tremble as she tried to hold in her tears. "I really am sorry, Momo. I didn't mean to get you so upset," I said as I wrapped an arm around her. "I know, Aizu, but I don't know what I would do if I lost you. We're all we have had for 6 years now. You've always tried to protect me. But if you die, what's left? Just me and Nizu, and we aren't able to save this world by ourselves. I can fight and come up with plans, yeah, but you can fight, plan, analyze, and other things with that big brain of yours way better than I can." I sighed as she still kept trying to keep it in. "Momo, for 6 years, I have made it my mission to keep you safe and alive, to return you to your family. My life wasn't important before we met. I'll fight with everything I have to fulfill both missions and save Earth, as well as get you back to your family. I may not mean much to anyone or anything in this world, but what little I mean pales in comparison to how much you matter to the world." I could hear her start to weep. I hugged her as she cried. "But you mean the world to me, Izuku. Not just that you've been my friend and protector for years, you've been the only thing I had to keep me sane and alive. Please don't ever overexhaust yourself again. I can't lose you, Aizu." I sighed, angry with myself for being so stupid. "I promise, Momo." She nodded and hugged me. "I am an idiot. I let you down and scared you. For that I am truly sorry. Once we've eaten and rested, we can start to work on a plan to free Mizuta-fu. I have a few ideas on how to use our power sets together that will let us get it done and fast." She chuckled. "You're not an idiot, but you sure did scare me." I chuckled alongside her. After eating, we went to sleep, each of us having our own rooms. I was awoken in the middle of the night as Momo was suffering night terrors of our time spent on the Hell Planet. I went to her room and woke her up. "Momo, wake up. It's only a nightmare. You're safe, I promise," I said as she woke with a start and began crying as she hugged me. "Aizu, I'm sorry I woke you up. I was back there being tortured again." I hugged her and rubbed circles on her back. "It's okay, Momo. I understand. No need to worry or apologize about it. It's perfectly reasonable. Just know we will never go back there. I will protect you with all my power." She wept in my arms for a while. As I saw Nizu, he smiled and went back to his room. He himself has been tortured, so he understood the situation. "Thank you, Izuku. You've always been so kind and respectful towards me. You never get mad at me for my fears or worries." I hugged her and said, "Momo, we've been all we have had for 6 years. I'd make a shitty friend if I treated you with anger for understandable fears and worries, wouldn't I?" She looked at me as I used my thumb to wipe away some of her tears. "Why is it you never got the nightmares, Izuku?" I sighed. "Because I was already used to being tortured. Pain and even death didn't frighten me anywhere near as much as the thought of losing you. Before we got teleported there, Momo, I was already suicidal. I spent 6 years being neglected and abused, beaten, and had quirks used on me. I had no one after my diagnosis, Momo. You're truly the first real friend I've ever had. She looked sad to hear me speak of my past, as I never told her much about it. Not even your parents cared. I shook my head. No, my parents stopped caring once I was declared quirkless. Only 2 people cared about me since my diagnosis. You, my former best friend's mother. Katsuki Bakugo was my mother's friend's son. Our mothers were the best of friends. We grew up together, and we were best friends, almost brothers. Really, his father died when he was a baby, and his mother hadn't remarried. But when I was diagnosed, my parents gave up on me. Katsuki turned his back on me to become my biggest tormentor. His mother, Mitsuki, was like my aunt. She cared more for me than my own parents. But I hid what was happening from her. I even stopped going to their home out of fear his mother would find out, and she'd abandon me too. So until you and I met on the Hell World, I had only her memory to go on. Momo wept to finally learn all this after 6 years. But why Aizu? My life was free of such things. Why was yours so horrible? I sighed when she started to figure it out. Money and power, Momo. Your family had the most of both, so you were spared. My family had no power and were middle class. My memories of my Aunt Mitsuki, when I'd tell her I was going to try and be a hero without a quirk, are one of 2 reasons why I always stood by your side protecting you. She told me innocence must always be protected, especially girls. As well, she told me that a true hero never goes back on their word. I promised you the day we met that I would always protect you as much as I can. That's why I took the torture for us both for 3 years. To protect you and your innocent heart. My life doesn't matter if you get to live, Momo. Protecting you is all I have in this world. I say as my own tears start to fall. But your life matters to me, Aizu. Without you, I have nothing and no one. I can't fight without you there to guide me and help. I can't sleep if you're not nearby to keep my nightmares at bay. I can't smile if you're not here with me. I smiled at her. Then I will do all I can, always be there for you, Momo. You give me the strength I need to stand beside you. I may just be a Deku, but this Deku will guard you with all his might. She smiles, then tilts her head. What's a Deku? I sigh. Deku means useless or worthless. The kanji in my given name can be read Deku. Katsuki called me that to remind me that I had no power and no value. That saddened her to know that even my childhood friend hated me and refused to use my name, only an insult. But you have value. To me, you're the most valuable person, my guardian, my knight, my friend. You're not a Deku, Aizu. I smiled at that. Thank you, Momo. I'm honored to be your friend and knight. Hee hee. You're hugging me so close I think your racks are sticking out my back, Momo. She blushed at that. Oh, you hush. I know when you're scared, that's what you do to hide your heart, Aizu. Why do you always get scared when I call you my friend? I freeze. We free Muzutafu, and I'll tell you. Okay, Momo. She nods. Aizu. I smile you, Momo. She breathes a bit heavy for some reason. Can you sleep next to me tonight? I froze. What? She looked me in the eyes. Please, just this once, Aizu. I sigh, then smile at her. Okay. Just don't get too handsy. Hee hee. Thwack. Ow. Sorry, was trying to make you laugh. She giggled at that. Oh, you stop. Hee hee. I smile, happy to see her smiling and giggling again. I lay in bed as she lays beside me and hugs me. I'm scared, Aizu. What if the 2 of us won't be enough? I think on her words. We were gifted unimaginable powers by God, who gave us everything we need to take back our world, Momo. He said the 2 of us will be needed to take Earth back from the forces holding it. Trust in Zorvance, and we will win. She nods, then lays her head on my chest. I try not to panic, and lucky she isn't looking as I'm neon red, trying to slay the pervy dragon in my mind. Good night, Aizu, she said as I smiled. Sweet dreams, Momo. I wake up the next morning with an unfamiliar weight atop me and some cushions on my face. Being intelligent, I know I'm on my back, so I was stupid and reached up to grab the cushion or pillow off my face when it squeaks. Weight pillows don't squeak. I open my eyes and realize, holy cow, those are melons. Aizu, I hear, and panic sets in as I immediately let go as Momo realizes the compromising position we're in. Sorry, Momo, I didn't mean to grab your racks. I I say as she leaned back off of me. Oh boy. Sorry, Aizu. She says then, wow, that's big. She says as she rolls off me. Big? She just points, and I look down SHD. I swear I didn't mean for that to happen, Momo. I say, trying to cover up the huge bone I had from Momo laying on top of me with her racks in my face. It's fine, Aizu. Sorry for straddling you like that with my melons in your face. I nod. No problem, Momo. I didn't mind it. I hear Momo giggle. Hee hee. Oh, really? I suddenly realize what I said and have an out-of-body experience to slap the hell out of myself. Oh, yeah? She laughs. Hee hee. Okay, then, come on, we need to get up. I sigh and get out of bed. We head to the entrance of the bunker. Nizu is there checking his weapons. You two finally got up. Was afraid you'd be doing something too long to get up. What with how you were laying together, ha 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 ha. Both of us blush wildly. What? Asked Momo as Nizu giggled. Seriously, how are you two just friends if you sleep like that? I groaned. That's the first time we ever slept next to one another, Nizu. He laughs. No worries. So, Izuku, do you have a plan to help us get Mizutofu freed? I sighed. Yes. But first, Momo, can you make safe fighter robots that we can use to post as guards for the bunker? Momo thinks about it. I think so. Just would need to know the specific weaponry they'd have and level of intelligence to give them. I give her the specs I believe we'd require, and she produced 10 bots, all with multiple weapons and average level intelligence, so they could have their own paths and stations. I then set up so 2 of the bots would exit the barrier and see what happens. We open the door and see hundreds of enemies outside the barriers. We have the bots attempt to fire off their weapons while in the barrier to test if they would be able to fight while protected it. Luckily they could, and I had Momo create as many as she could. We had about 30 bots and stationed them all around the inside of the barrier and ordered them to start attacking. Luckily, my barriers were essentially indestructible to our enemies, and the bots were slowly taking out the enemy forces. Thank God demons explode in a mist upon death. I smiled at Momo and Nizu. Well, seems we have us a way to whittle the forces down without them hurting us. I can make some ambushes, and you two could assist in long-range attacks. Would that help? Momo and Nizu looked at each other before Momo made a bunch of long-range weapons ranging from standard guns to energy weapons. I made multiple raids as Momo, Nizu, and the bots slowly took down the demonic horde in front of us. After 3 hours, we had finally taken down all the enemies. Once I couldn't sense any more enemies, I extended the barrier to house the entire campus of UA. Well, that actually worked, Aizu. Phew, good plan, said Momo. I smiled as we walked around the campus. Thanks, Momo. Now, with the added size of this barrier, we can work our way to setting Mizutofu free. The more space gave us a better chance of staying safe. Nizu spoke up. If we work fast, we can make a large number of defenses and set up the ruins and bunker to be the base of operations. I can make repairs to the school while you guys work on freeing Mizutofu. It may take me a while, but if we can get some more people on our side and bring them here, we can expedite repairs. I smiled. That's a good plan, Nizu. For now, Momo and I need to rest and restore our stamina before we do anything like that. Momo was far more exhausted than I was. Yeah, Aizu. Give us time to rest, and we can head out for some recon. I sat down, and Momo sat next to me. Thanks, Aizu. I know you could go recon now, and you're only staying to give me a chance to rest. I smiled as I looked over at her. True, but unless you want me to recon, I am fine waiting here with you. Momo giggled. Does Aizu enjoy spending time with me that much? Not really thinking, I just said, you know it, Momo. Only after I said that did I realize she was teasing me. Wow, really, Aizu? Said a blushing Momo. Not wanting to lie, I just said, yeah, I know you were trying to tease me, Momo, but I do enjoy our time together. Momo smiled at that and gave me a hug. Yeah, but I'm glad to hear that, Aizu. I enjoy spending time with you too. I smiled at her. Happy to hear that too, Momo. Do you want me to wait here with you? She nodded as we sat and talked for a bit. After about an hour, she felt rested enough to try some reconnaissance. Nizu had already made some progress, clearing rubble and debris out of the entrance to UA. We bid him good luck and took off. We made our way through the streets of Mizutofu. Anytime my life since activated, we would go investigate. Most times it was nothing, but then we got both lucky and unlucky at the same time. We stumbled on a group of teens being chased by some of the demonic forces. Well, up for saving the day, Momo? She nodded and readied her spear as I took out my katanas and rushed the demons. Hey kids, run to UA ruins. I set up a barrier to prevent the demons from entering. The group thanks us and runs as fast as they can to UA. I blitz the enemies and start slashing my way through them. Momo made a plasma rifle and picked off the enemies that got past me. It didn't take long to realize there were a few hundred enemies still, and I barked out. Momo, retreat. We need to get out of here and back to UA. She nodded and took off as I sheathed my katanas and fired an energy blast that wiped out a ton of enemies and took off after Momo. I kept an eye on our enemies, and we made our way back to UA. We just barely made it inside the barrier when the demons caught up. Luckily, they couldn't enter. We stopped and caught our breath. Holy hell, there's a ton of enemies out there, Momo. She nodded as she was taking heavy breaths. I turned to see the group of kids doing the same thing. Glad you guys made it here. I'm Izuku, and this is Momo. Who, may I ask, are you? The group consisted of 3 boys and 4 girls. The boys were Eijiro Kirishima, Mizo Shoji, and Tenya Ida. The girls were Tsu Azui, Pony Tsunatori, Mina Ashido, and Achiko Uraraka. Well, thank God you made this barrier thing, Izuku, said Achiko. All right, you are. Momo and I said at same time. So you spoke next. Izuku, how did you even upstrong a barrier if your quirk allowed you to fire off those energy slashes? Momo and I sighed. Neither of us have quirks. Follow us, and we'll explain. One big explanation later. Holy moly, how do you two even function after all that? Said Kirishima. I laughed. Well, it helps having a god modify your body and mind a bit. Not to mention, unlike Momo here, I kind of gave up on life before I got teleported. The tortures on the Hell planet and here for being quirkless were not much compared to the torture of failing to protect and save others when having the power. I had to protect Momo, so I had willingly chose to get the brunt of it. That shocked them all. What's so shocking about that? The kids looked sad. Momo sighed. In case you hadn't noticed, Aizu, most people aren't actually out for hurting others. Also, it's not normal to care more for other people than your own life. I shrugged. Oh, shush you and your weird logical reasons for things. Otherwise, no nightmare shield tonight. I said, trying to tease her, only to get whacked in the back of the head. Ow. Okay, nightmare shield, but I won't like it. Everyone smiled a bit at that. Sorry guys, just I'm not the standard type of person, as I only had 4 years of more than one person caring about my life. Anyways, we're trying to build up some type of resistance so we can start our journey to free this world of the demonic hordes. The kids looked around. So are you trying to repair this place? Asked Pony. Somewhat, yeah. Nizu is actually the one doing the repairs. Momo here can basically create anything she wants, as well as a few other powers she hasn't used yet. I have more attack-based powers for the most part other than my barriers, and a few other abilities I have yet to use as well. We want to set this place up as a base of operations. Miss Uraraka, can you help with the repairs with that zero-gravity quirk of yours? This confused the kids. Wait, how do you know her quirk? None of us said the quirks we have yet. I smiled. One of my passive powers shows me the abilities of those around me. Momo has it as well. Sorry for not mentioning that before. The kids were in awe at the various powers we had. Oh, hey, Momo, can you make that thing I told you about last night? Momo blinked a few times before making an oh gotcha face. She created scouters from the Dragon Ball series. We made them so they could analyze quirks and possible tactics to use against opponents. Holy moly! Frieza scouters? What do they do? Asked a very excited Kirishima. I explained them to the kids, and they tried them out. How come it doesn't show the powers you two have? I laughed. Oh, that's because it only shows quirks and not the gifted powers we received, as we're not yet sure how to analyze them. Why were you 7 out and about anyway? The kid sighed and looked distraught. We lost our group during a fight, and we all ran. We were trying to make our way back when the enemies attacked us, and we ran until you two found us. I nodded. Do you know where your group was heading? They all looked at one another then the ground. They didn't inform us. I wish they did, so we could go help them. I sighed. Momo, can you make some long-range weapons and garbots? She nodded and made about 30 different firearms and 20 bots. Can any of you remember the last known location of your party? Ida and Tsuyu told me, and I looked at Momo. Go Izuku. I'll work on teaching these 7 how to use the firearms. Just use the war power. If you find any, make sure to bring them back." The kids looked as I saluted. "I shall acquiesce your request, goddess of creation. Let this lowly knave allay your fears with his most excellent of talents," I said with an exaggerated bow and a smirk before warping out. I warped to the roof of a building they said they were at last. I sighed as I looked down. A few bodies were in the street. I hopped off the roof and checked. Unfortunately, they were all dead. I looked around, and off in the distance I could see a few wounded running back, firing off their weaponry and quirks. I rushed ahead and yelled, "Hey, come here, I'll get you all to safety." I yelled as they surrounded me, and then told them to grab me. Scared and confused, they did so, and I warped us all inside the barrier. "Holy hell, dude. How we do that?" said a girl with jacks for earlobes. "One of my many powers. Let's get you all taken care of first. I am Izuku. Nice to save y'all, as we brought some of your friends here earlier. When Momo got wounded here. Emma, head back out," I shouted as Momo and the 7 came running up to help them. I warped back to the previous location and started wiping out the demons. I ran further ahead and looked for any more. I hadn't seen anyone and was about to warp back when a voice screamed for help. I took off like a shot and found a hell of a surprise. Midnight and a wounded Eraserhead had been leading the group of kids, and I rushed towards them. Placing a hand on both of them, I warped back to UA. "Momo, we need help now." "Hang on, Eraserhead." "Midnight, what happened?" Midnight, confused on how I knew both of them, but scared for her friend's life, spoke. "The monsters attacked us, and while Shota was trying to protect the kids, one of them snapped and attacked us. He killed 5 of our group with his explosions." I froze. Was the boy's name Katsuki Bakugo? Momo and the others arrived and began treating Eraserhead. Midnight looked cautiously at me when Nizu came up teary-eyed. They spoke for a bit when Midnight answered me. "How do you know Bakugo?" I smiled sadly as Momo froze. "I used to be a friend of his until I was diagnosed quirkless. Then for 6 years, I was his victim. Let me guess. He was super arrogant and told not to attack, right?" She nodded. "Sigh, that fool never learned his lesson. My guess is after that he attacked you all, claiming he was better than all of you and how he was going to save the world, and you all were nothing but extras and pebbles in his path, right?" Midnight looked ahead with mouth agape. "How could you know all that?" I smiled. "Well, as I said, I was his #1 victim, seeing as I am a quirkless Deku. One big explanation later." "That's nuts," shouted Midnight, "and the rest I saved." "Well, you're not wrong. Though it's to be expected since we speak of gods and other worlds." We spoke for a while, and the 5 I rescued were Kyokujiro, Itsuka Kendo, Tetsu Testu, Mashireo, Ojiro, and Mei Hatsum. They joined the 7 and started helping Nizu with repairs to UA. I checked on the Aizawa and Momo. "How's he, Momo?" She sighed. "I've done the best I can right now. It's not much, but I believe he is out of danger." "I can't believe your old friend did all this." I sighed. "It's not out of the realm of possibility for him. Luckily, I was able to rescue the 2 heroes and 5 kids. Momo, there's somewhere I need to go. I'll be back as soon as I can, hopefully with a friend." Momo sighed. "Mitsuki?" I nodded to her. "I need to know if she's safe. I'll warp there and back here. I just hope she's there." Momo smiled. "You know, you almost sound like a hero, hee." I smiled at her and warped out. I was inside the Bakugo home, and I could feel someone's energy. "Mitsuki, Bakugo, are you here?" I shouted like a genius. I heard motion. "Who are you, and how you know my name?" I heard her shout back. "Is that any way to treat your nephew who just got back to Earth, Annie?" I shouted back only to hear a bunch of things being thrown around. "Izuku, is that really you?" I heard her say as the door opened to show Mitsuki standing in front of me. "Yes, Auntie. It's good to see you again. Grab my hand, and I'll take us to safety." She tackled me into a hug, and I warped out. "Momo, save me, Annie won't let go," I shouted teasingly. Mitsuki stood up looking around and saw we were in the bunker next to Momo. "Whoa, Isaac got him one hot girlfriend," said Mitsuki as we both froze. "How much as I wish it, Annie, we're just friends," I said, forgetting Momo was there before I punched myself in the face as Momo was neon red head to toe. Mitsuki laughed. "Well, too late, now your crush knows." I groaned. "Rude, Annie, very rude." Momo finally spoke. "You too, Aizu?" I think I said some very wise words. "Wah," and passed right the hell out. I woke up with my head on something smooth and lilting laughter. Opening my eyes, I saw Momo and realized my head was in her lap. Wow, good thing that was just a dream, I said as Momo quirked a brow. What was a dream? I shrugged, Mitsuki basically outing my feelings. Mitsuki laugh broke the air. Nephew, that happened. I froze and turned beet red. Oh no. Momo laughed. You were right, Mitsuki. Hee hee. Now, come up, hot stuff, we got a lot to explain to your auntie. I just ran on autopilot. After about an hour of explanation, I was being hugged by a crying Mitsuki Bakugo. Sorry, auntie. I wish we could have had different paths in life. I hugged her as Momo placed a hand on her shoulder. Mitsuki, we will try, and catch Katsuki and deal with his actions. Though I thank you from the bottom of my heart for how you were with Aizu. Without how you taught him and treated him, I don't think I'd still be here today. Mitsuki nodded. I'm so sorry I couldn't do more for you, Aizu, and sorry you too had to go through hell. I smiled. Annie, without you, I'd have died before going to that planet. Without how you taught me a hero, should be I couldn't have gone through all that torture for Momo. You need not apologize, Mitsuki. Nothing that happened to us was your fault. After a few minutes, she let go and spoke with us. Momo, you better take care of my nephew. Momo blushed. Well, to be honest, he's the one been taking care of me. He's protected me, gone through hell for me, been there for me through my nightmares. He's been my guardian, my knight, my saving grace. Mitsuki had a proud smile. Hee hee, that's my nephew. Through and through. Let me guess he worries you all the time, thanks to his willingness to lay down his life for you? Momo nodded. I sighed. Yep, it's easy to lay down your life when you don't value it. That made them both sad. Sorry, I keep trying to see any value in myself, but all I can think of is protect Momo, then save Earth. Protecting Momo means more to me than anything. They both smiled. We talked for a while, and eventually night fell. Luckily, we had enough rooms for everyone, though Momo insisted I sleep beside her. I agreed as long as I could place a non-see-through barrier in the doorway. Momo smiled, and we laid down ahead to bed. How long, Izuku? Momo asked as I lay beside. How long what, Momo? I asked as she pouted. How long have you crushed for me? I blink a few times. About 4 years, Momo. It started after I was in the deal to be the sole one tortured for a time. How about you? Momo smiles. 5 years, Izuku. I just thought you were too good for me. I blinked. That's what I thought too. She rolled on top of me and straddled my waist. Aizu, kiss me, she said while blushing. I blush, but I start to lean up as she leans down. I swallow my heart that's been in my throat just before her, and my lips meet in a massive surge of energy flowing between us. It felt like we were flowing through space as stars erupt and planets fly past us, while only the energy from our kiss propels us forward. After 20 minutes of making out, we finally came up for air. Holy cow, Aizu, that was amazing, she says as we hug. Hee hee, yes, you're one fantastic embracer, Momo. She is breathing heavy as we lay there gazing into each other's eyes. Was the fact you like me the thing you wanted to tell me after freeing Mizurufu? I nod. Yes, Momo. I figured only then would I have the courage to do so. But Mitsuki. She nodded. Yep. Hee, good thing you went to get her, my handsome knight. I smiled at her. I agree, my hot queen. We kiss again, and Momo melts into it. We break the kiss, and she rolls off me as we hug each other. Tomorrow we will start to build more defenses up, as well as can you make some construction droids? Momo holds me and lays her head on my chest. I could try Aizu. That would help in repairs to UA. I nodded as we spoke for a bit before the sweet embrace of sleep consumed us. We wake up the next day. Yet again, Momo is on top of me with her racks in my face. I smiled as I held her. After a few minutes, Momo woke up. Aizu, did I roll on top of you in my sleep again? I chuckled. Yes. Yes, you did, love. Momo blushed as she sat on my abs. Aizu, does this change anything? She asked as I smiled. Oh, totally. Now, when I tease you, I'm not just teasing my crush, but my girlfriend, I said as I sat up with Momo, wrapping her legs around my waist. We made out for a few minutes as she ground on my hard pages. After breaking for air, she smiled at me. Hee hee, well, after we retake Mizurufu, I think this huge beast of yours deserves a prize, Aizu. I blushed as we both knew what Momo meant. After my PP relaxed, I dispelled my barrier and we went outside. May, Achiko, Ida, and Kendo were helping Nizu clear out the rubble of UA as the rest stood on guard duty. I smiled as Aunt Mitsuki came up to us. "Few hope you two didn't break the bed last night." Hee. We blushed and shook our heads, making her laugh. I sighed before giving Momo the specs for the construction droids. She made 30 construction droids and 10 more fighter droids. I smiled watching the construction droids work on removing and destroying all the rubble for a few hours. Once Momo had rested and could make more things, I requested her to make powerful stationary turrets all around the edge of my barriers. After doing so, I decided to check on a specific place I knew was pretty far. I had to know if an old friend of Momo's was still alive. So I used my energy sense, and to my surprise, I found her. But she wasn't in a safe place. She had been captured by the demonic horde along with thousands of people. I sighed and knew if I were to rescue, just or I'd anger her. So instead, I focused on the entirety of Mizudafu. I was surprised at how many powerful people still were within Mizudafu. One extremely powerful boy and his brother, sister, and mother were currently in trouble. I smiled, drew my blades, and warped out. I appeared behind them and leapt over, firing energy attacks at the demon horde. "Oi, F off the people, demons. They're my allies and under my protection," I bellowed as I used many powerful attacks to decimate the opposition. A few minutes later, I had defeated everyone. I sheathed my weapons and ran up to the family. "Grab onto me, and I will take us to UA. It's safe there as demons cannot enter it." The family did as asked, and I warped into UA. "Tada, we're here. I am Izuku. Nice to help you all," I said as the four smiled a bit. I found out they were Rei, Fuyumi, Natsuo, and Shoto Himura. Formerly Todoroki, but after Enji died, they changed their name to Rei's maiden name. I smiled and took them to the bunker, which thankfully had food stores that could last for 40 years, as Nizu, for some reason, is a hoarder. After I introduced everyone to the Himura family, they each took up a role. Shoto and Natsuo would help the fighters, and Rei and Fuyumi would both help the wounded and the builders. I went to Momo and requested her to make a few dozen melee and long-range weapons so that we'd have plenty, and told her about her friend. "Momo, you remember your quirkless friend Melissa Shield?" She smiled and nodded to me. "She's still alive. Right now, her and a few thousand people are trapped on island. It's essentially a giant prison nowadays." Momo sighed. "We can't just take her and warp back, can we?" I shook my head. "No, not if what you told me of her is true. She'd feel guilty and grow angry at us. But should we expand the barrier or make more to increase the range of safety, we can then warp them back here to help fight for the freedom of Mizudafu." Momo thought about that for a moment. "What if you and a few hundred fighter droids were to head to island, then defeat the demonic horde there, and build a massive barrier around island?" I thought on that. If we did as such, surely I could help them all, and they could then work in building equipment to help study the situation. It might work, but to do that you need to be able to build more advanced fighter droids. Roughly 300 of them, and I could do that. "Can you do that, Momo?" She asked for the specs, and once I give them to her, she thinks on it. "I can do it, yes, but it would take me 3 days to make them all. Can you help find more people to bring here and work on reaching a hospital here? To help bring medical supplies to UA?" I nodded, and she smiled at me. I warped to the nearest hospital and built a 30-meter barrier in front of it, then warped back and grabbed Momo. She built 4 stationary automatic turrets in front of the hospital and then warped back to UA. I laughed as the demonic hordes began attacking. They failed to break the barrier as the turrets tore them apart. After 30 minutes, I ran into the hospital and started to slaughter every demon I found. It took roughly an hour, but I eventually killed every demon in the hospital. I went back down to the front and expanded the barrier to fill the entire hospital. I then warped back to UA. I explained to everyone about the hospital, and I took everyone except Nizu there and back many times. After 5 hours, we eventually brought every medical supply into the bunker and a building Momo had constructed. I was so tired after that I basically went and ate and then sat down in the bed in Momo's room for an hour. Momo eventually came to the room, and we spent a while just resting and talking. "Momo, have you managed to create any advanced fighters droids?" She smiled at me. "Yeah, but only about 25 of them. If I did not create anything tomorrow, I could make 100 or so. I'd say give me 10 days, and we'll have 1,000. In that time, try and rescue as many people as you can here in Mizutofu, and we'll be able to work on rebuilding UA to help create a strong base here. I smiled at that. Cool. After you make 300 of the advanced fighter droids, I'll take them to Liberate Island. Once it's liberated, I'll bring Melissa and a few others back here to help rebuild UA. Momo chuckled at that. You know who would have ever thought 3 quirkless would be some of the most important in this world? I smiled at her. You mean other than us, my hot goddess? She blushed and hugged me. You keep talking like that, and I may jump your bones, mister. I blushed and teased back. Well, I wouldn't mind that, but then you wouldn't have the energy to build the bots, hee. We chuckled together as night soon crept upon us. Hee. We should get some sleep, Momo. We're both going to need to be as well rested as possible for a while. My guess is that 400 advanced bots can free Mizutofu if I fight alongside them. But first we liberate Island. I looked over to her after making the solid barrier at the door. She smiled and cuddled up next to me. You know, Aizu, I haven't been happier than now. We both admitted how we feel. We're back on Earth. Even though we have to fight for our lives, we have been doing fairly well. So far, we have yet to lose a battle. We're no longer being killed several times a day. We can make something of ourselves here. I smiled as I held her. You know, you're not wrong, Momo. I've even become a bit more welcoming to the idea I may have value. If we keep doing this, we will succeed. But most importantly, I have you as my girlfriend and not just my friend. Momo looked up at me and smiled. True, Izuku. Though since we're sleeping next to each other, I have been getting a bit overheated. I don't want to sleep apart anymore, but do you think I could SDRP down to just undergarments as then I can stay cool beside you? I blushed at that thought. I have essentially had the same issue, Momo. We both seem to burn hotter than we used to. I don't mind if you want to sleep like that, but do you mind if I just sleep in my boxers? Momo blushed but nodded. We stood up and turned away from each other, removing down to our underwear. I sighed and turned and near had a heart attack from seeing my beautiful hot girlfriend in just undergarments. She was very well-toned, and her curves were huge. She too was blushing as she realized just how muscular I truly was. We got back in bed, but had foregone a blanket for now. We cuddled up together, hugging one another. You know, I can feel that monster, right, Aizu? Asked a teasing Momo. I chuckled. Yeah, just as I feel those perfect melons. Sorry, Momo, but not much I can do when I have a hot goddess like you half-naked in bed with me, love. She giggled at me as she rested her head in the crook of my neck. I can't wait for the day we've saved the Earth, as then we can just focus on us. We won't have to worry about fighting monsters and saving everyone. I sighed. That's true. Gauging from my analysis, it should take roughly 6 months to a year to do that, depending on the strength of our opponents. She smiled and I kissed the top of her head and said, either way, I hope we get to save the planet. I don't care if we even get a reward, as being able to be with you will be reward enough. She blushed at that. Yeah, that would be essentially the heaven we fought through hell to reach. I nodded as we started to feel sleepy. Always remember, Momo. I love you and always shall. She smiled and told me she loves me too. Soon after we fell into blissful sleep. 3 days go by, and I, along with the people I saved, have rescued over 600 people and built several safe zones in Mizutofu. We soon had well over 500 advanced fighter bots, as Momo had miscalculated the amount she could make, as each day she could make more than the day before. Happily, we still had her focus on the creation of them, and I was ready to take 300 with me to Island. We sent the remaining 200 bots throughout Mizutofu, just to see if they can, on the off chance, liberate the city as I take back Island. I initially warped to a safer area and built a 50-meter barrier, then would expand it as I'd bring in more bots. After a half hour, I had a kilometer-size barrier, and all 300 bots were transported in. I began to make raids into buildings that were still standing as the bots ran through fighting the demonic hordes. After I would return to the barrier, I began to feel around for the prison. Once I found it, I quickly warped 30 bots with me, and I launched a massive raid to rescue everyone I could. The bots shredded the demons, and I quickly reached the office that held the top forces. I charged up as much energy into my blades and rushed in, kicking the doors open, and noticed the enemy forces. I fired off several slashes at the demons and quickly slew all but the leader. I began to attack him and realized he was much more powerful than any I had faced so far. Smirking as it roared its strength was superior to all Earthlings, I used a power I'd been keeping in reserve. I roared as I began to glow, and soon I was covered in a red aura. My power skyrocketed as I realized that this fury mode only lasted for 5 minutes. I once again charged at the warden. It was still a hard battle, and I narrowly avoided several powerful attacks. I launched a massive X-slash at the warden just as I avoided his powerful breath attack. The blast hit the warden dead on and powered him through a wall before the warden roared in agony as the slash attack sliced through him. No sooner had the warden fallen did I revert back to base mode and was immediately exhausted. I realized the error I had made. By not using my fury mode, often I was not strong enough to last long in it. I let my regeneration help out before I ran back through the prison and found Melissa and a few other scientists. I warped them to UA before coming back to Isent and expanded the barrier as far as I could. To my surprise, I managed to liberate Island. I had built a barrier over the entire island and returned utterly spent to UA. Momo and Melissa met me at the bunker and took me inside. I needed food and rest, so I immediately got something to eat and laid down to rest. A few hours later, I woke up well-rested and ready to fight if need be. Fortunately, I did not. Momo and Melissa had spent the last few hours explaining their lives and talked of who I was. Melissa seemed very happy for Momo and myself to have returned from the hell planet we were teleported to as youths, especially seeing as we managed to return immensely powerful. I'm glad as well, Mel. Truly glad. We spent 6 years in hell together, the soul beings not there to kill, and Aizu here even forced them to only torture him for half that time, said Momo as she was seated at a table with Melissa and myself. Well, seems he's a rare breed of man, then Momo haha. Though with you two here on Earth, will we truly be able to save the planet from these monsters? I smiled at them. I don't know if it will be easy to do, but I truly think with us, combined with the people we rescue, we will be able to do so. As long as both Momo and myself can stay free, we can keep saving people and liberating cities. We're gaining strength by the day. Every time we use our powers, it increases our strength. So the longer we can do this, the more powerful we will become. Melissa was shocked at first, but thought about it. That actually makes sense. The more one does anything, the more proficient they get at it. I smiled at that. Very true. Hopefully we will be able to save the Earth. Although I really don't mind if others gain power to help increase our odds. That was something we all could agree on. I have faith that the two of us will be able to fulfill our mission. Soon after, Momo tells me that so far her robots have done quite a bit of damage to the demonic forces in Mizuta-fu. Thank God for that, I thought, as I currently had no desire to fight anymore today. We spent the rest of the day building comms equipment to maintain communication between us and Island. After getting the devices built, night had once again fallen. 2 days later, and Momo had managed to make another 500 bots that we went ahead and released into Mizuta-fu. I spent the majority of those 2 days building sanctuaries in Mizuta-fu and rescuing people. In those 2 days, I had saved a couple thousand people as the majority of the enemy forces had been eradicated within Mizuta-fu. Thankfully, by the 3rd day, we finally reclaimed Mizuta-fu, and I spent the entire time combining all the various barriers until Mizuta-fu was fully enclosed in one massive barrier. In a week, we managed to wrest control of 2 cities and save thousands of lives. It gave us massive relief, as now our forces were bolstered by powerful fighters, thanks to the bots and Momo's created weaponry. Hopefully now, with our success, we can start to retake more and more cities at a faster rate. Momo and I lay in bed, breathing ragged and sweating, both amazed at what the two of us had just done. Wow, Aizu, you're a beast in bed, said Momo as my cheeks flushed and I nodded. You're not so bad yourself, Momo, I said before we both looked to one another and chuckled at our compliments. Not gonna lie, that was amazing, Izuku. He didn't know that it would be that good. He can't imagine ever doing that with anyone but you, Momo said as she held herself above me with a hand on either side of me. Me too. You're the only one for me, love, I said as my eyes wandered from hers to her enormous melons with their small nips and areola. They looked 2 or 3 cup sizes bigger than they are due to that. I raised my head and kissed her as we hugged each other, our minds wandering back to what we just did. Flashback starts. Momo and I had headed back to our room, and I placed the solid barrier in front of the door again. We both removed down completely after kissing. We could not hold back any longer. We had freed Mizutafu and Island. With all the teasing from Mitsuki and Melissa, we were very ready. I looked in awe at her amazing naked form. From head to toe, she was the very definition of the words beautiful and hot. Holy moly, Izuku! How big is that monster? She asked me as I grinned and looked down to see it hard as steel. Dunno. Never measured, but I'm fairly certain it's big enough for you, I said with a smirk. She giggled as her face was crimson. She winked at me and walked up before getting on her knees. She had reached up with one hand and gripped my hardened it. I squeaked a bit from her soft hand as the other began to fondle my jewels. You're so big and thick, Aizu. And gauging from your enormous jewels, you have a lot in you that needs to come out. She purred as she began to slide me. She's good with her hands. She would slowly go the full length of my member before occasionally speeding up. She leaned in and began to pick and kiss my PP after a minute, going all the way up the length and frenulum. I squeaked from the pleasure she was giving me. I'm so tasty too. I think I need to have a taste test of that seed, she said as she kissed the head of my pages. Hell yes. Wow, you're very good at all this, Momo. I squeaked out as she began to inhale my PP into her mouth, all the while taking her hands and rubbing her melons. I listened to her gulp a bit as she got a few inches down her throat. I couldn't tell if she was squeaking for my benefit or truly pleased by her own actions. Either way, it was working. She began to slowly bob her head back and forth on my PP as she moved a hand down her stomach, and upon reaching her bald PP, she began to rub it, squeaking even louder as she SCK'd me off. Holy cow, that's so amazing! I groaned out as each time she squeaked it vibrated my PP, making it even more pleasurable. She winked at me as she increased her speed, taking more of my PP in her mouth with each motion. Within 3 minutes, she had gotten 3/4 of my PP in her throat, and she would rub her tongue up the bottom of my PP and open and close her throat on it. I was on cloud 9 as I watched her play with one of her melons and rub her wet snatch faster and faster. Fuck yes, just I like that, Momo. I squeaked as her eyes rolled back in her head, and she screamed into my PP with her back arched. I was in awe as I watched her SQRT all over the floor. Her breathing became heavy, and she slowed her oral assault for a moment. She popped off my PP for a minute and grabbed it as she walked back to the bed. I honestly was not minding. She sat me down before saying, I want to try something. Since I know how much you love these, I want to see if I can give you a BJ as I slide you huge PP with my big melons, Aizu. I blinked a sec before getting a wide grin. Hell yeah. Like I'd be against that. Bet they will feel amazing on my monster, I said with a grin. She smiled and once more got on her knees, though this time pressing her mountainous melons against my PP, which felt like heavenly pillows. She slowly began to pump on it as she leaned her head down and began to gulp me off once more. I was in awe at the dual pleasure. She could only take 4 or 5 inches in at a time, but the softened of her melons on the rest of my PP was definitely working. 4 or 5 more minutes, she put in the work, and I felt myself humping into her melons and mouth, and her eyes widened as she spoke to my mind. Oh goodness, yes, Aizu. Do it for me, baby. All the way down my throat. Give me every succulent drop of your delicious seed. That was all I needed to hear as I squeaked loud and felt my release rocket down her throat in several large bursts. Her eyes wide as she swallowed again and again. 3 times I filled her mouth, and she swallowed every drop. I fell back on my elbows, breathing ragged as she slowly pulled off on my PP, wiping up all the remnants left on it. Hell, Isa, that was amazing. So much, and it tasted so freaking sweet. Phew, I definitely want to do this more often, she said while winking and climbing up to wrap her arms around my neck. Well, that makes 2 of us. Phew, you're amazing at that, Momo. Surprised you actually swallowed it all, I said with a wink. Well now, you ready for the main event, Izuku? She asked while making something in her hand. I am if you are hot, goddess, I told her, She winked and leaned back, wrapping my PP in a condom she had just made. Well, then I think I want to ride on top in some missionary. She cooed as I climbed all the way onto the bed, and she crawled on top of me. She loved just over my member and snaked an arm down to guide me in her maidenhood. According to Mitsuki, this may hurt anywhere from a little to a lot or not at all. Momo said, a hint of nervousness in her voice as I slowly went inside her, stopping just at the hem. Are you sure you're ready, Momo? She nodded as she took a few deep breaths. If I hurt too much, I'll tell you, Aizu. She told me, and I nodded, saying, if it is too much, I'll have no problem stopping. I reassured her as I gently squeezed her hands. Momo nodded and leaned forward as our lips met. We both in unison pushed, breaking her hem in an instant. She whimpered into my mouth as I heard her shout in pain in my mind. I wrapped my arms around her. We broke the kiss, and she was breathing very ragged. I whispered sweet things into her ear as I held her. She nodded, taking slow, deep breaths in an effort to ebb the pain. Is it too much, Momo? I asked after her tears slowed. She shook her head. No, just give me a moment, Aizu. She answered, and we spoke softly to one another as we waited. She was breathing better and smiling more. Your PP is huge, Aizu. I think you're already in my stomach. She purred in my ear before she began to lift up and push down to signal she was ready. I nodded as I smiled. We didn't take long to synchronize our pushes. F Momo, your out wet snatch feels so amazingly tight. I squeaked as she smiled at me when our pushes quickened. God, yes, oh, just like all that Aizu. This is divine. She squeaked louder as she rode me. I was in heaven as we went at it, watching her face twist in pleasure and her melons bounce from the force of our efforts, listening to her angelic squeaks as she took every inch of me deep inside her. I truly, for the first time in years, felt I was alive. The waves of pleasure coursing through each and every nerve of my body. I finally felt I was worthy of the amazing woman riding atop me. The girl I fell for years ago. The girl I died for thousands of times. My soul friend in two hellish worlds who brought out the best in me. The woman I loved more than life itself. God, Izuku, you make me feel so alive too. Yes. Oh, just like that. Right there, baby. She squeaked aloud too, enthralled by our passionate lovemaking to use telepathy. I smiled as I sped up, and not but a few minutes later, she once more arched her back. Hell, yes, Izuku. She screamed as she tread all over my PP from an earth-shattering orgasm. She soon collapsed on top of me with her head in the crook of my neck. A minute or two passed by before she spoke once more. Hell, that was amazing, Izuku. Way better than my first one. He helps having this monster inside me. I chuckled at that before she leaned back until she was sitting on top of my pages. God, Momo, your body is beyond divine. You're a literal work of art. I said, amazed at her hot body covered in a slick sheen of sweat. She giggled at my compliment before I felt her squeeze my PP with hers. She swiveled her hips a bit, making a squeak gasp out from my lips. Hee, well then, guess I'm gonna have to be your hot cowgirl, she said with a smirk. Before I could say or do anything, she began to bounce up and down on my hardened wood. Oh, F that I feels amazing. I groaned out from the waves of pleasure. I watched in awe as her melons bounced up and down, slapping against her ribs. They mesmerized me with their hypnotic motions that made me focus between them and her gorgeous face that not even the best movie stars could hope to match. Oh no, I'll love your UPP inside me, Izuku. I think I'm going to be addicted to it. She squeaked out as I grunted in response. I never once imagined ever feeling something this pleasurable in my life. To think not only I'd be free from hell, but the woman I love more than anything would too. And that we'd be doing this together. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever picture anything as amazing as this. Watching her well-toned physique and her enormous melons moving in such a way. As she gave her all to pleasure me. Life has funny ways of working out, I suppose. I've gone from a worthless Deku to a scientific experiment to now the lover of a goddess. Yeah, I know she's human same as me, but in my eyes, this amazing being pleasuring me is a goddess. Hell, yes, Momo. Oh God, you're going to drain me dry if you keep this up. I squeaked out after a few minutes had passed. She smiled as her face turned pink from lust and pleasure. She sped up and squeaked out as she rode me. Yes, Aizu. Do it for me. Let me know this one belongs to you. I was feeling the orgasm build fast from every word she spoke. I couldn't deny her simple request much longer. We squeaked together as our bodies began to sweat more. 3 minutes later, and finally I shouted, as she once more arched her back while my hot load shot into the condom. I could feel her SQRT splash the exterior of it as she screamed in pleasure once more. Good, yes, Aizu. Both of us lost in our lust and passion from our first ever time making love. Soon as we finished, she fell once more on top of me, and we were both gasping for air. Flashback ends. We broke out kiss as I slid out of her. She whimpered a bit before wiping her lips and pointing to the condom. I got the gist and sat up, removing it and passing it to her. Thanks, Aizu. We're going to be doing this a lot from here on, aren't we? She asked before swallowing every drop of my load. Welcome. I guess so. That was the greatest thing I've ever experienced, I said as I watched her down it all. She smacked her lips and smiled at me. Same here, Aizu. Although now think you can warp us somewhere to get washed up? She asked, blushing as she noticed our sweaty bodies finally. I chuckled as I used energy sense to see that the showers were empty. I nodded and pulled her into a hug as I warped us there. Thanks. Didn't realize we were working so hard, but we definitely got our sweat on. She giggled out as she turned the shower on. I laughed a bit as the water crashed against our bodies. We both ended up lathering up each other's bodies and talking the whole time. I definitely enjoyed being able to roam my hands all over her voluptuous form. I think she liked lathering up my muscular frame as well as she drooled a bit. After we finished our shower, I warped up back to our room and hit the filter system so the air cleaned out as she created some scented candles. Not to try and cover up what we did, as gauging from the thoughts, we both oiked up the few who were in the bunker easily could tell what happened. We may be a bit loud. F it, I don't care. They could just deal with it. Momo turned bright red for a moment before a choking gasp was let out. I quirked a brow, and she waved her hands as she shook her head. Nothing, Aizu. I'll tell you tomorrow, she said after a few minutes. I shrugged as we each put on some new underwear and laid back down. Momo, I think I finally understand what always got you upset when I would recklessly throw myself headlong into battle or tortures even back on the Hell Planet. I am finally starting to see I am not the worthless Deku/science experiment I've always seen myself as, I said as we cuddled together. She smiled at that. Really, Aizu? So all it took was to sleep with me and you'd see your worth? Kinda pervy if you ask me, mister. She teased as I smiled softly, but didn't laugh. I'm serious, Momo. Being with you for so long and feeling how I did, I always felt like I was worthless as I couldn't save you. All I could do was lessen your physical torture. But as we did, that I could see that in your mind and heart, I was the sole thing that mattered more to you than even saving Earth or seeing your friends and family again. Seeing how highly you value me helped me see that I'm someone deserving life. I will prove to everyone, myself included, that I am deserving of you, I told her as my eyes shimmered with determination. She teased up a bit as she forgot that during she had fully dropped her mental shield, allowing me to read her mind completely. You're deserving of me. More than so, Aizu, all my life, before the Hell Plane, even though my parents loved me, it felt like I was a burden on them for being quirkless. Only friend I truly had any connection with was Melissa. We both were the quirkless offspring of billionaires. Yeah, having all that money was fun and all, but we both felt we disappointed our parents. Then when there I suffered horror after horror, but there you were. The scar's dead-eyed boy who fought to lessen my pains. Who willing died countless times in order to save me from that hell. You were like the shining knight defending a lowly, undeserving princess from monsters. But I slowly, even with all the torments, saw a small fire in your eyes. You began to show more emotion. I thought it was anger at first, but no, I noticed it was determination, an unbreakable desire to save me and escape with me, to return to Earth and return me to my family. You never whined or complained. You willingly suffered 3 times as much as you should have to fulfill those words. That made me desire to prove I was worthy of you. I no longer felt like a disappointment. I felt like the little girl who would save the small boy she loved from the demons of his own heart. I always thought you were worth more than me, and it always wounded me seeing how little you cared for yourself. But from this day on Izuku, we will be equals, not one worth more than the other. True equals, she said, making me tear up and hug her tight as I wept in her neck. For the first time in years, I cried from listening to her heartfelt words and determined proposition, seeing how much she truly loved me and yearned for my happiness. We held each other close and kissed once more before we finally felt just how exhausted we truly were. Within minutes, we fell asleep, and for the first time in many years, we both slept peacefully with happy dreams. We awoke pretty late for us, as it was roughly 10 a.m. I dispelled the barrier after we got dressed, and we walked out ahead to grab some food. We met Melissa and Achiko in the kitchen, and both blushed crimson at seeing us. I chuckled a bit as I realized why before we grabbed some food. Afterwards, we stepped out into the campus and saw the amazing work the others had done. Most of the rubble was gone, and the UA building was being restored. Mitsuki and Ray had noticed us and walked up, both wriggling their brows. Both of us were scarlet as they grabbed Momo by the hands and took her off somewhere as I scratched my head confused. I shrugged and sent to meet up with the fighters who had been gathering weapons and medical supplies and transporting them to the various safe houses. Soon we would need to start trying to liberate the rest of Japan. Our war may not be easy. We may lose most of those we have rescued so far. But come hell or high water, I will save this world from the demons. It's been a few hours since we woke up. Momo had been essentially interrogated by Mitsuki, Ray, and the other girls, much to her dismay. I thought it was funny watching her turn crimson and steam shooting from her ears. I had helped teach the fighters on the use of the weapons we had made, as well as the tactics to use against our demonic foes. As that was going on, the medical teams had helped heal the various wounded, including Aizawa, much to Namiri's happiness. But just as Nizu and the students finished finally restoring UA, a brilliant blinding light filled the sky. We all watched with bated breath and weapons at the ready. Before, Momo and I both felt it. That light was the very god what gave us our abilities. Hold fire. That's an ally. I shouted loud enough all could hear. The light slowly dissipated, and there in the center of the compound stood Zorvance with a smile. He stood at a towering 11 feet in height with an extremely muscular frame. His gilded skin and silver hair gleamed in the sunlight. His solid white eyes scanned the people. Very good, young Izuku and Momo. You two have proven most valuable in the efforts to stop these demonic entities. As such, you have allowed me to appear within your barriers. His voice boomed, full of pride for the hard work the two of us put into it. Various voices were heard, ranging from shock and fear to belief and awe. Thank you, Zorvance. We did our best, just as you requested. We will not stop until all of the earth is safe once more. But we owe you our very lives for the abilities you saw fit to gift us. I said as I stood before him with my head bowed. Momo beside me, mimicking my pose. You owe me nothing, young ones. The efforts you are putting in to fulfill my requests are payment enough. But as you surmised before the rescue of young Melissa's shield, I have gifts for her and some information for you all as well. He said with a kind smile. We raised our heads in surprise as we heard Melissa yelp out in shock. You have gifts for me? Melissa stuttered out nervously as she gazed upon the mighty deity. Yes, young one. Like Izuku and Momo, here you have the very soul of a hero worthy of the gods. Will you accept these gifts? Melissa swallowed hard as tears formed. The crowd watched in silent awe. A few were saddened that they weren't getting gifted powers like the three of us. Melissa, you decide if you will get them or not. Zorvance won't force the powers on you. We need your help if we're to retake the earth from the demonic hordes. I said as Momo set her hand upon her shoulder and gave a genuine kind smile. Melissa nodded before taking a few breaths. She looked from Momo to me, then the rest before a determined fire filled her eyes. Then I accept Lord Zorvance, she said with strength, filling her voice. Zorvance smiled as he reached out his hand and placed it on her head. We watched as power flew within her body, and light encircled them. After a bit, Zorvance nodded and removed his hand. Melissa was teary-eyed, smiling bright as she felt the powers flowing through her body. I nodded as Momo hugged her. We knew her powers were similar to ours in terms of energy manipulation, telepathy, warping, and strength. Yet, she has also gained incredible healing powers and summoning abilities. I smiled before turning to Zorvance and thanking him once more for the aid to our quest. You are welcome, young Izuku. However, I bring unfortunate news. The one you know, as All Might before he died, had a successor. He was planning to gift her his power. That stunned everyone. We didn't quite understand, as for the longest time quirks were only from birth, not transfer. Zorvance nods and explains the history of the two quirks OFA and AFO. Once he finished, he sighed with a frown. However, young Izuku, his death happened mere days prior to when he was to gift her the quirk. She has since then fought the demons and scavenged for supplies. But in doing so, a young villain of indescribable madness and rage captured her. She was held prisoner alongside another brave young man and a few others until yesterday she and the others escaped the villain's grasp. Momentarily, without you three to save them, they shall fall to the hordes. Please, young Izuku, you three must head to Osaka and find them. They are in desperate need of your aid. Will you do this? I was stunned by the major revelations to All Might and his quirk. Enraged the monster was a quirkless and did all of nothing to aid the quirkless. But to hear a fellow quirkless and several other people were held prisoner by a villain and tortured before escaping stirred my heart something fierce. Mission accepted, Zorvance. We will go and give our all to rescue these people, I said with a blazing inferno of determination and fury roaring in my eyes. Momo and Melissa each matched it. Izuku's right. We can't sit by anymore. We need to go on the offensive. We will rescue them, Zorvance. Momo exclaimed with a powerful tone as Melissa nodded with her fists clenched. Very well, young Izuku. You three are the very definition of the word hero. I can't wait to see how far your spirits soar. I must take my leave, but know this one and all. We will be watching you and praying for your success. He boomed with a smile. He went to say goodbye, but I interjected. It's not goodbye, Zorvance. It's see you later. I have a feeling we will meet again soon. I smiled at him as he chuckled. Very well, young ones. See you later and give it your best. In a blinding flash, he disappeared once more. I turned to the duo and nodded. We went to mine and Momo's room first and had Momo create some gear for Melissa. She chose a chain sword and a shield for weaponry, as well as a plasma bow. We smiled as she stood in her new outfit, a mix of clothes and armor. She had a solid, deep blue hooded t-shirt and tight, yellow leather pants with some armor woven in. That had definitely shown off her assets. Ahem. Oh, where was I? Oh, curse you, narrator-san. You can't tell me you weren't also hypnotized by them huge rack and that thick, juicy curves. Oh, F me sideways is that Godzilla. Run. Oh, yeah. She had combat boots and some fingerless gloves with dentral metal on the knuckles for punishing punches. After I was allowed to turn around and see her, I near got floored by the sight of two super hot goddesses. Zuku, Izuku. Momo screamed when my vital fluid finally stopped pounding in my ears. Sorry, Momo, just that you two look amazingly badass and hot. I shouted out, making both girls blush hard. Oh, really? Melissa asked nervously. Yes, you two gotta be some of the baddest ever. Wait, why the hell am I saying this out loud? Please don't kill me, Momo. I shouted as fear began to creep in, but Momo just blushed and sighed. Wow. Thanks, Izuku. I never got called that before, Melissa said as Momo turned to her and smiled. Well, you're not wrong, Izuku. So no harm, no foul. Come on, we got peeps to save, so stop ogling each other. She teased with a wink to Melissa, confusing us both. We shook our heads and stepped out. Nizu, Namuri, and Aizawa stood before us. Keep them safe, guys. We'll be back as soon as we can, with more allies in tow. I said as Nizu smiled softly. We will, Izuku. Just come back safely and make sure to protect the others you're to rescue. I nodded and turned to smile at the girls. Let's kick some, but I shouted as we warped away. As we focused, we stood in the middle of the street. Melissa, for now, I want you to focus on ranged attacks with your plasma bow. Momo will handle mid-range. Only if enemies get past me should you go melee. Keep an eye off Momo, and vice versa. Does it sound like a plan? I looked to the duo who smiled and nodded back. We each drew our weapons and took off down the street as one unit of holy, count don't mess around or find out. Ahem. Anyway, as we went through the streets, we were shocked at the minor amount of foes we faced. We each dispatched them with ease, which was strange. I figured they'd have more out in search of the ones we came to save. Does this seem off to you too? I asked in a whisper. They both agreed, and we stopped for a bit. I used my life sense and focused on the city. My eyes shot open as I found a huge amount of life energy being surrounded by immense dark energy halfway across the city. Oh no, we have to hurry, they're getting mobbed. I shouted and raced off with the girls not far behind. As we ran, I felt the sources in my rage built up higher than before. I sensed several teens, and worst was two little kids who were losing energy fast. I stopped, and the girls grabbed me as I warped us to them, for if not, they would be lost to tides of war. We appeared just in time to cover the kids. One was a small girl covered in bandages and scars with a horn on the right side of her forehead, white hair, and brilliant ruby eyes. The other was a small boy with black hair, a red hat with two gilded horns, and both bleeding bad. Melissa, heal them and warp back to UA. Then get back here as soon as you can. I ordered as I blocked several weapons, and Momo was blasting energy from her spear. Melissa nodded as she knelt down and warped out. The demons began to encircle us as I eyed the teens. One thin yet muscular girl had green bushy hair, jade eyes, and was around 5 feet 6 inches and maybe 115 pounds. She fought with a scream of sticks. There were two others. A slim boy in a kimono with long blue hair in a ponytail. He had two different color blue eyes and was fighting with a katana. He stood roughly 5 feet 9 inches and looked about 135 pounds. Another girl was invisible, so all I could tell was she had a mature body and fought with a staff. The last was a girl with red and gold colored hair and pigtails. She had one red eye and one gold eye. She stood maybe 5 feet 1 inch and had a slight chubby build, maybe like 125 pounds. She fought barehanded and occasionally fired off what appeared to be rubies shaped into weapons. They each were severely wounded and breathing hard. I looked to Momo and nodded. She immediately made twin auto turrets facing towards the front as I turned and began powering up as I roared. Soon, that familiar red aura coated my body as my hair spiked up and my eyes glowed with furious power. I launched myself into the dust and began slashing my blades faster than the eye could see. Each slash was accompanied by a powerful energy slash. I heard the five behind me fighting with everything they had, but they were so exhausted that it was left to just Momo covering them. I smirked as I felt Melissa's entrance as she warped above the battle and aimed at an angle with her shield at the ready and Chain's word charging power. She blasted energy from her feet and, at insane speed, slammed into the enemies surrounding the wounded ones and Momo, decimating a large portion of the enemy forces. It bought her enough time to set up a few more auto turrets as they treated the kids. Isa, we got them. What do we do? I heard Momo shout. I smiled as I slashed through several demons with one blade before launching an enormous lightning-infused fireball into the foes I was facing. Get them out of, was all I got out before a huge energy warped onto the field. Oh no, what's that? Bellowed the girls as the teens begged to flee. How dare you take my slaves? The demonic voice filled the streets. As the smoke cleared, it revealed a man with a plague doctor mask and a green jacket. His legs were that of the demons we faced, which made me nearly puke. Dear God, he's becoming a demon, Melissa shouted in surprise. I nodded as I hardened my glare. I admit, that's a new one, but we need to stop his descent here and now. His power is beyond any we've faced so far. Momo, you need to drop some more turrets and take the kids back with Melissa, then get back here. I'll do my best to buy you what time I can. I shouted as I powered up higher than ever before in hopes of matching his might. I launched myself at the ranting and raving half-demon and began to slash at his limbs. Momo and Melissa didn't want to leave, but they knew we couldn't defend them and ourselves against this foe. I don't know who you are, and I don't care. You sided with demons and imprisoned all those kids. You sick monster. That's all I need to know. Now, face my sword god Blitz. I bellowed as I began to slash faster and faster and send energy and elements through them. After 30 seconds, I had severed most of his limbs and leaped back. He was bleeding heavily, but as his mask fell apart, all I was able to see was a hellish smile with eyes full of rage and vitriol. Not bad, brat. Not bad at all. However, you missed one important detail. With the new demonic upgrades, my quirk Overhaul has evolved. I only need to think of what to do with my body, and it will activate repairing any damage you inflict, he said, in a sickeningly sweet voice that chilled me. R.O. the bone. Before I knew it, he was once more at full health. You gotta be kidding me. I yelped out as I dodged his insanely fast blows. Momo and Melissa just finished off their opponents and turned in time to watch as the half-demon Overhaul healed and charged at me with renewed vigor. I dodged when I could, but his speed was equal to my own and kept increasing. I growled as I gripped my blades. I turned to face the girls who realized my predicament. Seasword God Blitz in Fury mode has one huge drawback. Due to the enhanced power of the attack, it inflicts severe punishment on my joints and tendons. Even with my regeneration factor, I am barely able to move at half my normal speed. I smiled as I looked to them. Sorry, guys. Looks like that's it for me. I'll miss you. Remember Momo. I truly do love you. I told the pair as the villain latched onto me and used his quirk blasting me to pieces. The next thing I know, I'm back in space, floating amongst the stars. My eyes gazed upon the beauty of the scenery as I teared up. I was unable to witness what Momo and Melissa were experiencing. Damn it, let me go back. I need to help them. I bellowed to the starry ocean before me. I roared and thrashed as hard as I could. I know not how long my struggle lasted before I exhausted my rage. Welcome back, young Izuku. Though I must say, I wish it was under better circumstances. I sighed as I turned to Dace, a saddened Zorvitz. Please? Send me back, Zorvitz. I need to help them. I bellowed, but he didn't move once. I'm sorry, young human, but revival is not part of my repertoire. I cannot bring you back and send you to aid your friends, he said with a voice full of sorrow. I wept as I heard the words, and panic filled my heart. No, you're a god, Zorvitz. Please, you have to be able to do it. Please, I have to help her. I begged and pleaded, unable to handle news. He floated beside me and placed his hands on my shoulders. Relax, young Izuku. As I said before, the gods are watching. There is one who can revive you, but to do that would require a quest. We have the ability to revive you and turn back time to just before Overhaul grabbed you. My head shot up at breakneck speed as I looked into his eyes. What must I do? I asked quietly. A god would appear to be made of ethereal blue energy appeared. You will be sent back to the Middle Ages. There, you will seek out and destroy an evil queen, as well rescue my descendant. In doing so, you will prove your heroism and be able to be revived. Unless you fulfill this request, your story ends here and now. Will you accept? The energy asked. I gripped the handles to my blades hard as I clenched my teeth. If that is what I must do to return, then consider it done. I growled out as the two gods smiled to me. Very well, Izuku. I hope you succeed where so many have failed. It said before I felt as if I was falling with scenes of humanity's progression soaring past me in reverse. I'll do it. I have to get back there, or Momo and Melissa are doomed. I snarled out, drawing my restore blade. I'll go to any lengths to return Tunyu Momo. I will not let you fall into harm ever again if I have the power to prevent it, I said as my powers skyrocketed like never before. Whoever this unfortunate one is will pay dearly for his crimes against the gods, and in doing so I will return to you. I whispered softly as I readied for battle, just in case. I know not how long I fell as the scenes rewound me, but when it stopped, I found myself in an empty building with cobwebs and dust abound. Wielding my blades, I ventured forth through the building and its various rooms. It was not like anything I expected. A massive, ancient building full of decay and rot. The scent was overpowering. Corpses were in various states of decomposition as desks, shelves, and tables also rotted away. I shook my head and carried on. For an hour, I went through the building's various rooms, finally finding what appeared to be the actual entrance, and froze where I stood. Hanging from the rafters were 5 fresh bodies: a man, a woman, and 3 children, the oldest being no older than 10, and the 2 others at most 5 and 3. Hung by their necks as 2 knights cackled at the dead as they drank. "You monsters! How dare you do this?" I roared, scaring the 2 knights who drew their blades. Before I was able to rush them, everything froze as Zorvin spoke in my head. "Do you see it, young Izuku? The viciousness of true human depravity and greed? Your heroic heart is powerful, yes. However, in these times, you cannot afford to let your kindness dull your blades. The only way for you to succeed is to bathe your hands in vital fluid. The laws of this current world are not of your own time. Killing your fellow man is far harder than dusting demons, to coin a phrase. You must kill in order to return to Momo and Melissa. Because for as noble an ideal as heroism, even heroes can't rehabilitate everyone. Some are beyond redemption. Should you succeed and return to your world, we will heal the damage the slaughter will do to your mind. Stay true, young Izuku, for you are the last hope of the gods. Without you, Momo and Melissa cannot save the earth." I sighed, knowing what Zorvin said was true. I never wanted to be a murderer, even though I yearned to slaughter those monsters on the torture planet. I knew taking lives would break me, especially if Momo knew what I had done. But now I must harden my heart and find the god's descendant, as well slay this evil queen to free the people from her reign. I will return. Nothing will stop me. Come what may, I will not fail Zorvins. I said as I poured all the conviction within my heart and soul into those words. I swore an oath to always be there for Momo, and not even death will stop me from proving my words true. Time returned to normal as Zorvins thanked me for my honesty. The knights rushed as I smiled bright, charging my blades with lightning. I blitzed past them in the blink of an eye, slashing them each 15 times in a split second. Exhaling, I sheathed my blades as the 2 fell to pieces, their flesh charred and smoking from the heat of my lightning. With a sigh, I stood below the bodies of the small family. I know not who any of you are. I now know what made them do this, but I will ensure you each get a proper burial. I pray you all find peace in your next lives. I said as I used wind to cut the rope from them one by one, ensuring I caught their bodies. Soon enough, I had used my earth, praying for their souls to find peace in a world bereft of pain. After I finished, I looked to the horizon with a soft smile. It's a good thing I can speak English, as I'm not in Japan anymore. I only hope I can carry a conversation with the people of this time period. Sigh. It's time I make for a town and see where I am and if I can find any info on my targets. I sighed as I warped to the furthest point I could see, covering miles in the blink of an eye. I continued to do so until I could see a town. With a sigh, I walked the distance to the town as I had not wanted to show myself as having powers. Given the time period, I am fairly sure they'd either view me as a god or a demon. Neither was something I wanted. This quest was already going to be difficult enough. I didn't want it getting more so with either moniker. As I stepped through the gates, I was keenly aware of being a minority as everyone I saw was white, making it more awkward. I was not sure if, at this time, they had met any Asian travelers, but given the reaction I received, I am fairly certain that very few in this village had seen any Asians before. Smiling softly, I walked through the village. I made my way to where else but the tavern, to drown my sorrows. Nope, but to pick the ear of the barkeep. I figured the best place to gain information would be them, given the number of visitors they got daily and the alcohol. I was fairly sure they'd heard many tales. As I was nearing the tavern, though, my progress was halted as a bloodied woman was thrown out of the tavern, followed by 3 large men stomping their way out who did not look pleased with her. I growled as I once more started to head forward, reading the minds of the 4 individuals, smirking viciously by what I learned. "Oh, we ain't done yet, Rear. Get yourself up off the ground. Until you service all 3 of us, we aren't leaving this place," snarled the nearest as my eye twitched. However, when he reached down to grab her, I spoke. "You know, for 3 keepers of the peace, you're rather angry, aren't you?" No wonder she thought you fools weren't worth her time. I don't give a curse if you need to get laid. If that's the case, then go off into a barn and do each other instead of harassing locals you find pretty. As I spoke, I stepped between them and the wounded woman, smiling like a demon the entire time. I could hear her pleading for me to stay out of it as she saw I was young. You got a big mouth, brat. If I were you, I'd keep my nose out of others' business. Otherwise, you may get your nose flattened. Don't think we won't toss you in the cells, just cost you's a slant-eyed mutant kid. One of the trio of dumbass sparked out. Was that the best ammo you had? If so, sorry, but that thing ain't gonna scare me. I can take all three of you down blindfolded. You guys should be aware of who you threaten, especially if they outclass you in terms of strength. To say they appreciated my advice would be an understatement. But I wanted them to attack me, so victory is mine as it were. Curse you, brat. Get him, the leader roared as he swung at me, with most likely everything he had. The woman screamed as I smiled. The punch never even landed as I stopped it with a single finger. What? How you do that, brat? Demanded the leader as the two others flinched before diving at me in an effort to tackle me. Grinning, I jumped and kicked the first one into the two others, sending them all sprawling. Quite easily. Like I said, boys, I have you greatly outclassed in strength and speed. Be smart and walk away while you can wipe your wounds. Or be fools and try to kill me like you did that boy last week after you raped him. Because do that, and these blades of mine will be wet with your vital fluid as I'll leave your corpses to the worms. I growled as I unleashed pure killing intent to the trio. They shivered in fear of my words, frozen to the ground as the woman shook with rage. They did what? She demanded, and I smiled sadly. Already aware, the child she was searching for was their victim. The boy you seek, unfortunately, was their victim. They raped him for hours. They got off on his sorrow and despair as they beat and mutilated him between sessions. Then they slit his throat and buried him outside the walls of this village. I'm sad to say that your nephew is no more, miss. However, they will not get away with it, even if they don't fight me. Even if I must mete out justice for his death myself. I spoke loud enough the passers-by heard every word. The trio's refusal to even deny it made it clear I spoke truth. The young woman had tears fall as she clenched her fists in fury. Why? Why do that to my nephew? He never did anything wrong. Why would you monsters do this? She roared as I placed a hand on her shoulder to prevent her from attacking them. The same reason they beat you. These monsters only care about satiating their lust. They're responsible for most of the deaths in this village. But that all ends today, I said as she met my emerald eyes with her fiery rubies full of wrath. Let me kill them, she demanded, only for me to shake my head. No, young miss, for your hands are clean of vital fluid just as he always yearned them to be. However, I won't be staying my blades. Irredeemable monsters that torture innocent women and children deserve death. As I spoke, their fellow guardsman had arrived. One began to approach until my eyes fell upon him. You will not step in. None of you did a thing, even though you all knew what they were doing. Because they were stronger than you all, you let them have their way, figuring at least then it would make the rapes and deaths a necessary evil. I said as I stepped towards the three men drawing my dentral blades. How do you know these things? They demanded as the rest watched on. A cruel smile etched itself on my face. Let's just say you all failed to notice me for months. You know the tales sailors tell of the mysteries of my people. We are silent as the night itself. We know things others cannot. When we face your people in battle, we cannot be bested. We are vengeful, and when called upon to serve our masters, we never fail. My master Zorvance demands I rid all of Europe of the vile wretches that serve Queen Carmilla, wiping her and her reign of terror from the very history books themselves. You three serve her. Therefore, my master's orders are clear. You must die. Then I will slay you, queen. I snarled as all eyes looked on in a mix of rage and fear. Rage at Carmilla's men and fear for what comes after I slay her men. As I took the final step and towered over the men, fear in their eyes, hearing their accursed deeds, they relived in their heads and begging the vampire queen to save them. I kept my vicious smile on my face to maintain my ferocious appearance. I took no pleasure in what I did next, but I knew if I let them live, then Carmilla's forces would be alerted to my presence. In a flash, I decapitated the trio as all those watching grew somber, minus the young miss. She wept after the trio lay dead. Not for them, but for the last of her family being killed. I know it is not the same as saving your nephew, young miss. However, I had not known about the situation until this morning. As I just arrived in town today, I whispered quietly, so only she could hear, as I swiped my blades free of vital fluid before sheathing them. She wept as she pulled me into a hug. I was not comfortable with it, but I hugged her back. If I had been here sooner, I could have saved him. The informant I met had been too cowardly to act. I assure you, however, that he has been dealt with as well. From the information he gave me, you're the last of your family. Aren't you, Lily? I asked quietly as she nodded and sobbed for her nephew's loss. That's true, she said through a stutter. Nodding, I asked her if we could go to her home. She agreed to go there, but before we left, I looked to the guards. This is on you. You all stood by and did nothing to stop them out of fear. So it's for you guys to clean up the mess. Once done, you need to tell every member of the families of the victims you've allowed to die. Otherwise, my blades will fall upon you next. The guards jumped in fright before disposing of the bodies as Lily led me to her home. Once inside, she and I sat at the small table. I sighed as I sat down. Lily, I am here to find and destroy the Vampire Queen. But when I learned of your nephew's fate, I had to step in. I said as I looked to her. Lily nodded as she wiped her eyes. I owe you much more than I ever can repay. I blinked before realizing my mistake. Apologies. I am Izuku Midoriya. I'd say nice to meet you, but given the circumstances, that'd be a poor choice of words. However, you owe me nothing, Lily. I did not do that just to gain something from you. She giggled softly at that, a small smile on her face as she took a few deep breaths. I see, but can I at least offer you a bed here for as long as your stay is Sir Izuku? She asked, hope in her mind and eyes. I smiled softly at that. I would greatly appreciate it, as I spent all my coin reaching here. My quest is difficult, and it took everything I had just to get what little information I have at this point. I answered as her eyes brightened at that. She blinked a few times before realizing she still had wounds. I grinned as I pulled some of the various medicines out from my pocket. Let me treat your wounds, Lily. I may not be a healer per se, but I am able to patch most injuries up. Her eyes widened at that, as the village doctor had been sick, so she was afraid her wounds would need to heal naturally. I asked where all the wounds are and blushed a bit at her explaining. While Lily is nowhere near as stacked as Momo or most girls I had seen in the safe haven, she is still quite the looker with a bit above average melons. Swallowing hard, I asked if she could disrobe so I could treat her. She went crimson but nodded. Slowly, she led me to her bedroom and undressed. While her face had some abrasions and vital fluid, her torso was severely bruised and cut up. Apparently, she was beaten horribly in the bar. The downside was that in this time period, underwear had yet to be created. Therefore, I saw everything. With a cough, I began to use the medicine and bandages I had on her wounds. She was shocked as the pain subsided quicker than any treatment she ever received from the doctor. After I finished, she got dressed while still blushing. I never expected to get naked for a kid, even if it was to treat my injuries, she said as she fanned her face. I chuckled as I nodded in understanding. Well, to be fair, I never expected that either, I said as we both snickered. Sighing, she looked at my swords with a nod. If you're truly here to slay the Vampire Queen, I would suggest heading west, but first, you should probably find work to earn money for your journey, Lily said with a sigh. I nodded as I looked to her and thought, will you be able to take care of yourself without your nephew? She shrugged, thinking on it as she bit her lip. Even without telepathy, I understood that answer. No, without him, I won't have enough coin to survive long. Why do you ask, Izuku? Her head tilting as she asked. I smiled softly. Because I can't let you be unable to survive. I will find work to earn coin, as well half of what I earn will go to you, to pay for the housing here. This way, you aren't left destitute. Lily's eyes went wide as she had not thought of me doing that. She looked conflicted before I pat her hand. I want to help, and I have a feeling I'll earn plenty of coin given my skills and what they witness me do. Don't think anything of it, as I feel obligated to pay for my stay here, so you can save up for things you need. She blushed a bit before nodding with a sigh. I do not know what I did to earn the assistance of one as noble-hearted as you, Izuku. Thank you for everything. I smiled and nodded at her compliment. I know not when I will find the queen, nor the descendant of the god, who can revive me. Until then, I will work my way from town to town, helping where I can. I will do whatever I have to in order to return to Momo. It's been a month since I was sent to this time. I have worked daily, doing jobs from collecting herbs for medicine to subjugating dangerous animals and bandits. I was even earning a rather hefty sum from all of my jobs. However, today, both myself and Lily have finished our preparations to seek out the evil queen. According to the information I gained from the minds of the traitorous guards, as well as from Lily herself, we needed to head west. Since I had earned so much from the various tasks, I could easily afford to bring Lily along. She felt a bit uncomfortable relying on me so much, but I didn't mind. Are you still sure it is okay to accompany you, Izuku? You've already done so much for me. Lily asked nervously. I chuckled as I pat her shoulder. Yes, I'm sure, Lily. Besides, wouldn't it be easier on you to start over in a new place where others aren't always pitying you? You may not say it, but I know the looks of pity and everyone acting as if you were as fragile as glass does upset you. I spoke softly as I saw her flinch before. Looking down sadly, I forget you always seem to know things. You're not wrong, Izuku. I do hate the pity and treatment. But I don't know how I can ever repay you for all you have done. I smiled softly towards her, understanding her side of things. She never was more than a commoner, making earning coin difficult as she had refused to use her body to earn money. She most likely could make a lot of money given her beauty and rather buxom build. She was only 25, standing about 5 feet 2 inches, blonde-haired and blue-eyed, with D-cup melons of rather large juicy curves. Many of the villagers and knights had tried to charm her, but she never accepted. It was surprising to learn this, as she could easily rise to a high class from the earnings. Any other villager would have accepted their offers, but not Lily. Unlike those whom money was the biggest concern, Lily yearned to be with a man out of love. It was very uncommon given the era, but I found it to be rather noble. Lily, I have no problem helping you. I wish to give you the best chance to heal from what you've been through. Physical pains are easy to heal. Emotional and mental ones not so. While you've completely healed from the beating you endured, the loss of your soul family has wounded your heart greatly. This will give you the chance to see the world and to potentially find work you can do yourself. I explained as we carried our packs and stepped out from her home. Lily nodded, but was blushing for my words. Thank you, Izuku. I could tell she was nervous. I made it a point to not read her mind after that first day. I smiled to her as we made our way out of town. Lily, are you still practicing your letters? I asked in an effort to make small talk. She smiled bright and nodded. Yes, I am amazed you know so much. Most warriors are just battle maniacs. Yet you have a scholar's mind to match your fighting prowess. I've been studying every night in an effort to master letters. It was really hard at first, but thanks to your help I have already gotten better at it. I'm still having a bit of difficulty with it, but I enjoy reading and writing. She answered with pride. I giggled at her antics and pat her head. That's very good. My people believe that merely swinging a sword is pointless. We make sure that we are knowledgeable in many things. That way, if we can no longer fight, we have other ways to earn coin. I explained with a smile. Lily blushed from the head pat, but nodded with a big smile. That's right. Warriors could die or get too injured to fight again. So by having the ability to read and write, you can still find work. Your people are amazing, Izuku. She cheered, making me chuckle. Well, I'm honored you think so much of my people, Lily. I will do my best to teach you as much as I can. Besides, I'm sure once you've mastered letters, you will be able to make a lot of money on your own. Not that I mind helping you with money I earn, but in case something happens to me, you will be able to stand on your own. Lily nodded with a sad smile. Yeah, though I hope nothing bad ever happens to you, Izuku. You're so strong, but also very kind and gentle. Like a real knight. I smiled hearing that. I have to admit Lily is growing on me, but I know once Queen Carmilla is slain, I will be revived and sent back to face that demonized villain. I thank you for the praise, Lily. You have treated me with nothing but kindness and acceptance. It is rare for one such as myself. I usually get treated with hate and fear given my appearance. But you have never once acted that way. It means more than you could ever know, I said as we walked down the road and began to get close to a forest. Lily squeaked at my praise, but thanked me for it. Technically, it wasn't a lie to her, as in the Middle Ages Asians were seen as less than human. As well, given my quirkless life, I too was mistreated just the same. Lily, though, was different. She seemingly harbored no hate for anyone as long as they were good and decent. That was why I refused to let her kill those men. For if she had, then she would have lost that pure innocence. Oh, I wish I could kick those men in the nuts for treating you and your people like that. You're an amazing kid, Izuku. How you look and what your race is aren't good enough reasons to hurt you, she exclaimed with an adorable pout. I snickered at that as we continued our walk. Occasionally we would discuss several topics, things Lily wanted me to teach her. Fortunately, she didn't ask to learn a fight. Instead, she wanted to learn things about the world as well to learn medicine. If I add that to my teaching her how to read and write, she definitely would have no problem earning money. Given her bubbly personality, she would make an amazing nurse or scholar. We walked for hours before making it to a clearing deep in the forest. Let's stop here for the day, Lily, I said, making her smile. She was exhausted, and I could tell it was the most activity she'd done in a very long time. I went about setting up a campfire in our tent, with Lily resting on a nearby stone. After I got the fire going and tent set up, I handed her some of the food so she could begin making supper. One thing I learned about Lily was she was an amazing cook. I can cook fairly well, but it's as if she had some form of cooking quirk, as we can make the exact same meal with the exact same ingredients, but hers always tasted better. As she did that, I went to gather wood for the fire, as well as ensure no predators were nearby. Satisfied that our location was safe, I made my way back to the camp. Before getting a thought, I pulled out one of my dentro katanas and set the wood aside. Smirking, I accessed my energy manipulation. Digging the katana into the ground, I began to carve out a large hole. In a couple minutes, I had carved out a 5-meter wide hole that went down about a meter. Sheathing my katana, I aimed the palm of my hand to the hole, and using elemental manipulation, I filled the hole with pristine water. Satisfied with my work, once the hole was filled, I grabbed the firewood. Making my way back, I smirked, knowing how much Lily was going to appreciate having somewhere to bathe. When I returned, I was surprised at the delectable scent. My eyes widened as I drooled over the meal. Lily had made steaks with mashed potatoes and green beans. I was floored as I had no idea she could make the green beans and potatoes with our equipment. She smirked, seeing the look on my face, only then to point out she had bought 2 small pots before we left. Well, I'll be cursed. You really do think of everything, Lily, and an amazing cook. No wonder all those guys sought your hand, I said without realizing it. Lily squeaked at the praise and stammered out a thank you as we sat down. They'll most sought my maidenhood, not my hand, she said as she passed me a plate of food. I nodded with a sigh, as I hated guys like that. Guys who could only see a woman's body and not care about what the woman wanted. We ate our meal in peace as we listened to the critters of the forest. Once finished, and my flood of compliments for her cooking had ended, I spoke. Oh yes, I found a small pool as I gathered wood. It would be a good place for us to bathe before we get some sleep. I mentioned making her go crimson again. A bath? As in together? She asked nervously. I shrugged my shoulders at that. We don't have to. I could simply guard you as you bathe, then take my own after, I explained. She looked a bit relaxed after that, but also disappointed for some reason. If it's you, I don't mind bathing together, Izuku, she squeaked out, making me blush a bit. Oh, really? Why, Lily? I asked, confused to all hell. Well, you could better protect me if we stay together, and we can't do that if you are bathing as I go back to camp, right? She explained nervously. I thought on her words, and it did make sense logically, as I could easily protect her even without my blades if we bathed together. Although if she bathed first, then returned to camp as I am bathing, it is more likely she'd be at risk. All right, it does make sense, so why not? I answered as we stood up. I grabbed my bag and took out some soap I had made. Then taking some towels, I led her to the pool I had made. I could see her fidget and blush the whole way. I've already seen you naked, Lily, so no need to be so shy about this, I said with a small smile. She squeaked at my words. I know, but I've never seen you naked, Izuku, she shouted out, embarrassed. I chuckled, grabbing the back of my head. Oh yeah, Huh, that makes sense. Not but a minute later, we enter the clearing. I built the pool in, and I sat my swords and the bathing supplies down. Lily swallowed hard as she removed her dress. Not gonna lie, she's an incredible beauty and very not as hot as Melissa and Momo, but pretty close. I was surprised to see she had trimmed her pubic hair, as last time she had a rather impressive bush. Now she had barely any. She fidgeted under my gaze before stepping into the pool. Nodding, I removed my clothes and made my way into it, only for Lily to stare at me in awe with her mouth wide open and a small nosebleed. "Are you okay, Lily?" I asked as I blushed a bit under her stare. She shook her head and forced herself to look away. "Huh, you just never expected you to be so muscular or to have a giant, she said, embarrassed as she did her best to not look. I blushed as I realized what she meant. "Huh, oh yeah, sorry. I kind of forgot about that," I replied as I grabbed the soap and handed some to her. She nodded as she asked how to use it. I explained as I showed her how it works. "See these bubbles it is creating? They're called suds. When the bubbles are formed, it is cleaning the dirt and grime away from the body. After washing the suds away, you should have clean skin underneath. See?" I pointed to my arm after I'd scrubbed it clean and washed it off. Her eyes went wide at the shock. Soap had not been invented here yet, and even if it had, only the nobility could afford it most likely. "Wow, how do you know so much?" she asked, shocked at my knowledge. I simply chuckled at that. "Well, I have picked up a thing or two during my journey." Lily nodded at that before she began to try scrubbing her body clean. She yelped as she scrubbed too hard. "Easy there, Lily. You need not scrub so hard," I exclaimed, making her nod before she bit her lip as she looked to the soap and then me. "I don't want to sound lewd or something, but could you help me with this?" she asked as her entire body went scarlet. I froze at the request as I swallowed my heart back down. I had not expected her to make such a request. "Are you asking me to bathe you?" I asked nervously. She nodded as fidgeted. I didn't really want to, but seeing how difficult of a time she was having, I relented. "Okay, but just this once, all right?" I answered, making her smile bright and nod. She quickly moved to sitting in front of me as she faced away. With a sigh, I reached towards her and began to lather up her back. She squeaked a bit at my touch, making it a little uncomfortable. I quickly finished washing her back before I moved on her arms. Once that was done, she asked if I could wash her front. Blushing like wildfire, I took a deep breath before she shifted to facing me. It was easy to see her nips were already up strong. Swallowing hard, I was just glad her melons were D cups and not the massive F cups of Momo and Melissa. I slowly began to lather her melons, making her bite her lip as she tried not to squeak from the touch. Gotta admit, her melons are the perfect mix of soft and firm, just like Momo's. It didn't take long to finish with her melons and to move onto her stomach. Once that was done, she stood up and raised one leg so I could lather it, making her pee-pee very noticeable to me as I washed her legs. After I finished and she sat back down, I took note that my pee-pee was hard as diamond. Blushing, I quickly went about washing myself. Soon as I finished, we got out of the water and dried off. "Phew, hey, you were really good at bathing my body. I feel so refreshed and clean," Lily said with a bright smile as she finished getting dressed. I chuckled, nervously praying I didn't have to bathe her again, mainly out of fear how Momo would slaughter me if she ever learned of this. I picked up our bathing supplies and led the way back to our camp, pondering on what to do with the pool. Seeing no reason to refill it, I chose to leave it as is. We sat in the makeshift camp as we watched the stars overhead. I never thought I'd leave that place. I lived there my entire life, but with you by my side, I have no problem doing so. Is that odd? I thought on her words before smiling. Not at all. You had reasons to stay. But after losing your nephew, being beaten by the guards, and my arrival, it makes sense why you'd feel safe enough to try and journey with me, I explained as I looked from the stars to her. I will not lie, if I wasn't with Momo, I probably would fall for her beauty and charm. She smiled at my words before sighing. "I guess we should get some rest now, huh?" she asked as she stood up. I nodded as I rose to my feet and let her step into the tent. Smiling softly, I snapped my fingers and activated a trick I had devised since coming here. I used my electric manipulation to serve both as an alarm should someone cross into the AoE. As well, if they get too close, it would produce a massive shock that will incapacitate any who cross the boundary. Smiling at a job well done, I joined Lily in the tent. She was crimson from head to toe. Izuku, there's just one bedroll. She squeaked out in surprise. I chuckled as I rubbed the back of my head. Oh yeah, they didn't have enough in stock, so I got you the last one. I can sleep on the ground, so no need to worry. I explained, making her breathe a sigh of relief, only to then go wide-eyed. But you can't sleep on the ground, Izuku. You get sick. I can't let that happen, she exclaimed while blushing. Her brilliant blue eyes, full of worry over me, was rather unexpected. I had not expected her to be so concerned for my health. I will be fine, Lily. I am used to travels such as this and sleeping on the ground. I tried to placate her, but she pouted and shook her head as she stood up, only to whimper in pain and to fall back down. I knelt beside her in concern as she whimpered. What's wrong, Lily? I asked, worried for her condition. Lily smiled through the pain. I'm just really sore from all this exercise. Sorry for making you worry. I sighed her words, not out of anger, but out of being foolish enough to not think on this in advance. I pointed to the bedroll. Please lay down on the bedroll, and I will massage your feet and legs. That should take the pain away, or at least lessen it. I explain as she blushes and nods. She crawls to the bed and pulls her dress up to her waist, laying on her back as she was blushing hard. I smile softly as I reach down to rub her thighs. She squeaked as I gently massaged her meaty thighs. I could see her biting her lip, trying to not be too loud. I chuckle internally as she mused quietly. Slowly, I work my way down to her calves before finally massaging her little feet. Once done, Lily lets out a sigh of relief. That really helped out a lot. I don't know what you did, but my legs feel so much better. She cheered as she stretched out her legs. It's called a massage. When one rubs the tension away, as well as the soreness, it allows the body to relax. It isn't a guarantee to always alleviate the pain, but in cases like yours, it is very helpful. Lily nods with a smile as she shifted under the bedroom cover. That's awesome. You're always full of surprises, Izuku. Though don't think I didn't know you did that in order to make me forget you want to sleep on the ground. Even as thick as this bedroll is, it's not enough to stay warm in a place like this. You're joining me in this bedroll to help us both stay warm, she said with a mock glare. I groaned as I forgot she was much more intelligent than most. Crud. You caught me. You're really not going to let this go, are you? I asked as she nodded. Groaning, I removed my boots, then climbed in beside her. Good boy. Now we can both sleep and stay warm. She smiles bright as she suddenly snuggles up to me. I sigh as I miss Momo doing the same thing. Now we can sleep peacefully, I state as my blush deepens, especially as her plots are resting on my abs, with her head nuzzled into my chest and her leg between my own. I felt horrible for this, as I only wanted to sleep along with Momo like this. A few moments later, Lily began to drift off to sleep, much to my delight. Sigh. I hope I can return to you soon, Momo, but I know not how long I will be trapped in this world. I really did hope to return soon, even though I know doing so will hurt Lily, especially so if she tries to take things a step further. Her breathing slowed as her eyes shut, making me wish even more she had been Momo, as Lily's defenseless nature made it more exciting than ever. Groaning, I do my best to relax. Thoughts on how to defeat Carmilla deep in my mind. I refuse to let Lily and the people in this time suffer from her evil a moment longer. But for now, sleep takes precedence. I was having this amazing dream that first night of our trek. It was certainly difficult getting Lily off of my mind, as she has so much faith in me and has done so much to help me. It's why I had spent the past few weeks teaching her reading, writing, survival needs, and other things. So after I return to my time, she will be able to survive on her own. Sure, I had noticed her beauty and her crush for me, but I have no desire to be hers whilst I have Momo. Most men would easily fall for her, but compared to my girl, Lily is not worth it. Soon, however, I was woken up by a weight on top of me and something grinding my PP as I felt kisses on my neck. Opening my eyes, I could see it was Lily, but to my surprise, she was actually still asleep as she dry humped me. Sighing, I reached up and shook her shoulder. Miss Lily, please wake up, I asked as I did my best to control my squeaks. Lily grumbled as she woke up and realized her predicament. Squeaking, she sat up, which made us both blush as she had removed her sleepwear and was naked. Her melons, while not as large as Momo's, were still very large, especially given the time period. She squeaked and dove off of me as she spotted her clothes and quickly got dressed as I looked away. "I'm so sorry, Zuko. Please forgive my indecent actions," she pleaded with teary eyes after getting dressed again. I smiled softly at her and pat her head. "It's okay, Lily. You were not doing it on purpose. I have no reason to be angry or upset with you," I said with a smile, making her relax. She breathed a sigh of relief as she thanked me. I never knew boy parts could be that big, nor that grinding on them could make me feel so good. She thought, making me choke up, only then remembering I could read thoughts. She blushed hard as she covered her eyes. I chuckled before winking to her, deciding to just be a bit playful to embarrass her more. "Well, it felt great, plus your melons are huge with perfect nips. So guess we're both prime specimens gorgeous." She gawked as she went crimson from head to toe and smoke shot from her ears. I laughed before stepping outside to cancel my trap. Lily soon joined me as we went about making breakfast. Did you really mean that, Izuku?" she asked quietly as she made breakfast. I blinked to her in confusion for a moment before smiling softly. "Yes. While I have a girl, I'm not blind to your beauty and build. You're a rare one, Lily. Beautiful, an amazing cook, very intelligent and honest. I have no reason to lie to you, and the truth of you is far grander than any pretty lie I could create," I answered as I used life sense to ensure no wild predators were around. She smiled softly as she blushed. "Thank you, Izuku. My nephew was the only one to ever compliment me. Not even my parents or siblings did so. I know not why, as I never did anything wrong against them to deserve their hate." She spoke as she wiped her eyes. I nodded in understanding. Humans are very apt to hate those who are better than themselves. Regardless of how kind or evil the person is, they would rather spread hate and vitriol than honest truths. "Lily, I have not known you long. That's true. But I can see through the lies and twisted facts." She smiled as she looked to me. "Thank you, Izuku. Your woman must be very pleased to have such a kind and wonderful man." I smiled to her and thanked her in turn. Shortly after, we finished out breakfast and took turns changing clothes. Once that was done, I packed up the sleep roll and tent as Lily packed up the cooking supplies. As we were about to leave, I could see her looking conflicted about something. "Is something wrong, Lily?" I asked as I do my best to not read her mind. It's just difficult to keep in check when I first wake up. She chewed her lip as she looked to me, before sighing asking her question. Would it be okay if we held hands as we walked through here?" she asked quietly. I was taken aback at first, as I hadn't thought that would be her query. Smiling softly, I nodded and held her hand. I could tell she was afraid, not just of the possible predators and bandits in this forest, but that I'd be upset at a woman besides Momo making such a request. "It's fine, Lily. If that's what you need to feel safe, I have no issue doing as such." She smiled as I took her hand in my own before we began our journey once more. For a week we traveled as such. I would create hot springs for us every time we made camp, as well use my powers to create bathing supplies. We would talk as I taught her many things along the way. Soon she had no difficulty reading and writing. I had taught her medicine as well as how I created the various bathing supplies, as well how to track and survive in the forest. She was very surprising with her ability to learn. It was incredibly high, and she loved to learn new things. Once we made it out of the forest and near the western city of Mardoon, however, we came across a group of enemies that bore the insignia of Carmilla. I knew things were about to get more dangerous than ever. "Lily, hide in those trees. These guys look strong," I whispered to her as she nodded and slowly made her way behind some trees and shrubbery. "Be careful, Izuku," she whispered, making me smile softly. I nodded before I snuck my way towards the large group of soldiers, only to freeze up as I saw that these weren't just soldiers. No, these were the same demons I fought in my time alongside Momo and Melissa. Only these soldiers had far greater intelligence than the normal scrubs I tore apart with ease. "We need to find this Izuku. If we don't, then Queen Carmilla's life is in danger." One of them spoke as another smirked with a haughty attitude. Come on, we all know that no mere human could kill our queen. Her power is far too great. Just because he's a stronger human doesn't mean he stand a chance against us, let alone against Queen Carmilla. Bragged one of the dumbest of idioters of the ever times. Are you sure about that? I asked as I rose up behind him. His allies began to tremble at the aura I exuded, only for the dumbass to open his mouth once more. Of course I'm sure. Humans are too weak to ever defeat demons. Don't you know that, jackass? Why are you all looking like that? He asked after his bragging. I smirked as I drew my swords and tapped his shoulder with one. As he turned to face me, his black eyes went wide as he began to shake in fear. Then does that make me a god? I asked before I sliced him in half as his allies screamed and panicked, firing off their spells. I chuckled at their weak efforts to destroy me. Guess so, since I'm immune to your attacks. Let's get this started. I shouted before firing off several energy slashes that shredded the enemy force in a matter of seconds. I probably shouldn't have in hindsight, given Lily was able to see my abilities. But I sensed many more demons nearby, so I needed to end these fools fast if I was to get Lily into the city safely. The demon screams, however, alerted their allies, and I looked to Lily. Lily, stay calm for now, and I will explain once all this is over. As soon as I beat these guys, I will place a barrier around you, and we need to rush to the city. I mentally told her as I could see her shiver in surprise and look to me with confusion. I charged lightning into my swords and launched it at the foes while dodging their attacks. It didn't take long for me to end them and cast a barrier around Lily. I ran up to her and placed my hand on her shoulder. This barrier will protect you from any danger. I need to warp you into the city, then I will trick these guys into thinking I ran away. I said with a kind yet serious tone. She looked extremely confused, but I simply smiled. Relax, Lily. I'm not a threat to you. When I warp you to the city, find a spot to hide, and I will find you after leading these demons away. Will you trust me? I asked. I could see she was fighting with herself on whether to believe me or not, as only Carmilla and her demons coiled use magic like I had done. After a few moments, she nodded, and I teleported us inside Mardoon City. I found an alleyway that led to a broken-down home. Hide in here, and I will return as soon as possible. Once I do, I will tell you everything I can. Lily swallowed hard before nodding, telling me to be quick as she went into the dilapidated home. I agreed, then teleported back to the battlefield. I could see the hundreds of enemies heading in my direction. Smirking, I fired off an energy blast before sprinting towards a ruined fortress miles away in the opposite direction. Thankfully, the demon forces, while far faster than humans, were still slow compared to myself. Given my teleportation ability, I could reach the fort in a second. But I needed to draw these guys away, then take them all down at the fort. I reached the fort after 10 minutes with the demons, getting there 5 minutes later. However, I had already lain many different elemental traps. I stood on top of the fort as I let my energy run wild to attract the enemies. I wasn't surprised to see thousands of demons swarming on my location. Hee, this just gets more and more fun. However, I need to be quick. While Lily is safe for now, I do not want her to get worried. I said as I charged my elemental powers on top of the key. As soon as the enemies trigger my traps, taken down hundreds of the forces, I fired off energy and elemental attacks in every direction. I could hear their screams of pain as I dusted them by the hundreds. I was impressed as they refused to retreat. They just kept sending their men to battle me, even though I was obliterating them with ease. Not that even their officers would make much of a difference. I had already gauged their battle prowess, and so far none have come close to being a true threat to my life. I guess they had planned to make me run out of energy and magic. Unfortunately for them, that I had such massive reserves of both. Not to mention, as long as I didn't move, I was constantly regenerating both. Even with their powerful magics, they couldn't even knock me from my perch. I smirked as I made quick work of their forces, listening to their screams as they couldn't understand my might. They used stronger and stronger attacks, yet still I was standing on the roof. Is this all the power your queen has granted you, pathetic weaklings? I roared after growing bored by their senseless, suicidal charges. After 20 minutes of constant destruction, I had whittled them down to mere fraction of their numbers. Smirking, I finally decided to move and launch down at the largest group of demons. Spinning on top, I tore into them as they did their best to block or dodge my attacks, knowing full well they would soon all rush to my location. Kill him. Kill the monster. If we fail, our queen's life is in danger, bellowed the leader as I began blinking about the enemies as I used energy slashes to make quick work of them. At least they finally understood my power was leagues above their own. You guys are too weak to challenge me. You're right to say I will slaughter your queen, but you will never pose a threat to me. I barked back as I ducked several attacks. Gripping my blades tight, I cut them down at their legs. As they fell, I carved them to pieces before leaping back to dodge more attacks from the rest of their forces joining up. As soon as I landed, I charged a powerful beam attack. Now that I've got you all in one place, I will end this in one blow. I bellowed before spinning as fast as I could, confusing the enemies as I had a circle of energy around me. Another shield? Bypass and kill the mortal, their leader said as I cackled, making them freeze up. Who said it was a shield? Ha ha. I'll be sure to request smarter and stronger opponents next time, as you guys are absolute dumbass. Say bye-bye, Sout, as I slammed my hand down on the ground and the energy blasted off in every direction. As soon as it reached the last enemy in each direction, it erupted in an enormous explosion. When the dust settled, only the leader was still standing. I started spinning my swords in my hands as I walked up to him. You arrogant demons never learn your lesson. You underestimate me due to my humanity. The biggest mistake you guys could make. You think your queen is powerful when in truth, I am the strongest in this world. I will kill every single one of you demons, then leave back to my home with your queen's head on a silver platter. Sorry, not sorry, I said as my eyes glowed with power and I drew my blades faster than the eye could see and cut him into fourths. I sighed as the demon burst into ash before warping back to Mardoon. As I did, I heard Lily yelp in surprise. I smiled softly towards her as I walked up and dissolved my barrier. I have a long story to tell you. One you deserve to know, given what will happen after Queen Carmilla lays dead at my feet. I said with a sad smile. For hours I told Lily everything. My entire story from start to finish. By the time it ended, she was drained physically and emotionally. As I not only told her my story, I showed it to her in a barrier I could place my memories into. She was in awe at my powers, but also wept as she watched the hells I had to endure. After her tears ended, I told her the final detail. That after I kill Queen Carmilla, I will be sent back to my time. I see. That's why you've been teaching me. Isn't it Izuku? She assholed as we left the hut and made our way to find a better home. I nodded with a guilty expression. I didn't want anyone to know the truth about me here. But Lily deserved the truth, even if it made me seem like a raving loon. Yes. So when I leave, you can survive on your own, either by doing any type of work or simply living as a hermit in the woods, if necessary. It wasn't my intent to force you from your home, but when I noticed the pain you were in living there, I made a choice. To take you somewhere that nobody knows you, so you could start over. I explained as I found the housing authority. She thought on my words as we entered the place. Luckily in this city, they had many vacant homes, and I had plenty of coin to afford one for us. It was a bit bigger than Lily's old place, which was fine as we could build up stores for her, so she could have plenty in reserve. Plus now that she knows I can teleport from there to various places to begin hunting demons. As I know many cities have requested aid in destroying them to free themselves from Carmilla's tyranny. After I paid the guy for the home, and he left, we sat at the table. I'm glad to have learned everything, as you seem to know far more things than any warrior should. It seemed odd, too, with how powerful you are, as I've witnessed you do things with ease that not even the strongest guards could do. But are you sure these gods will return you to your time after Queen Carmilla is slain? She asked with a nervousness to her eyes. I nodded as I had full faith in the gods of this universe. I know they will keep their word as long as I keep mine. Yes, I won't lie and say I won't miss this time or you. Few people ever treated me the way you have. Even in my time, many fear my power. They fear what I will do once I have killed the demons and freed the world. But you have been incredibly kind and honest. It made lying to you very difficult to maintain, as I knew you deserved to know the truth. It's just I fear if too many learn of me and my abilities, they will suffer when I leave. I'm just a man, and I fear they would try to revere me like a god. Albeit I have powers like a god, I am not some all-knowing entity. I explained quietly. It was rare I ever spoke quiet and serious around her. But each time she knew it was incredibly important. She nodded and put her hand on mine. I understand, Izuku. I don't hate that you lied or hid things, as that is up to you. You avenged my nephew and have gone out of your way to teach me all these things. I will greatly miss you when you leave, but you can count on me to keep your secret. I won't reveal the truth to anyone. I just wish there could be a way we can keep in touch after you leave. I nodded and smiled to her when she said that. Me too. I wish I could introduce you to Momo, Melissa, and my friends. They'd love to meet and befriend you. But I honestly know not of a way to do so. Lily smiled at that before getting to her feet. Then let's get some dinner started and we can talk more after. I expect lots of funny stories about the future Mr. Chosen One, she said with an enormous grin that made me chuckle. She went to begin cooking as I looked down at my hand. It was frustrating as I really did want to introduce them all and keep in contact with Lily. Growing friendship with people of this time was something I vowed not to do, but Lily has become a very dear friend. It was going to make leaving for my own time very difficult to handle. Lily herself will face it as well. All I could do now was teach her everything I can so she can make a living after I'm gone. Though that is a tale for another time. For now, sleep calls to me hee that and pizza. Pizza is more important than wordy words, yo. Yo, been a while, right? Shut up, editor-san. Why? Because I have to make them think I am far smarter and kinder than I am? What do you mean I just told them? Oh, you didn't see this. Move on. Go. Shut up, editor-san. I'm being sneaky and... Is that a dragon? Well, F me sideways. Ahem. Moving on. Why did I start the talkie stuff, you may be aspirating? Because I'm an idiot. Anyway, this chapter is a bit special. I'm going to write it from Lily's POV. There may even be a money shot scene. Or not. I'm a very well-known stupid writer of the letter thingies, and I suck at promises. Anyway, tangent aside, I will try to fit in at least the beginnings of her journey as Izuku works to return to his time. So, without further ado, let the storificationist beginnerate, and may I learn English someday. F at keeping it in. I lay in bed after we finished eating and bid each other good night. I did my best as the tears began to well up. I knew Izuku would leave someday. Heroes like him rarely stay after they've vanquished their foe. But it hurt to know we would never see each other again afterward he's finished Queen Carmilla. He came into my life barely a fortnight ago with the force of a hurricane, revealed what became of my little nephew, then slayed those most foul beasts what killed him. Now I learn he has the powers of a god, and is not even from this time. His powerful heart, his kindness, his vow to help me even when it will make his war last longer, his beautiful smile, and piercing emerald eyes that seemed to peer into my soul. It was already hard enough, especially learning he had another of equal power to his own. Tears fell as I kept silent and wiped at my eyes. Curse these gods. Why must you torment me so? Why must you tempt me with a hero when I've nothing to offer him? Why send him away to where I cannot see or speak with him again? I whispered as the tears fell ever faster across my alabaster cheeks. I won't lie. I am angry, yes, but I'm even angrier to learn he already has another who I cannot even hope to match. It was already difficult enough to fight the burning in mine womanhood as it was, but to know my feelings will be torn asunder as he is banished back onto his own time. I wept for what felt like hours. I was doing mine best not to make a sound. I know not if Izuku could hear my thoughts or my silent sobs. I pray he shall, and would creep unto my bedding to allay my fears. I know my heart. It yearns for him to conquer it, for him to bring unparalleled bliss, if even for a moment. But I need no power to know it would harm his heart to betray the warrior goddess, the only one to ever treat me as more than the foolish daughter they didn't want, the strange woman who always dreamt of a brighter existence. I love you, Izuku, more than the sun loves the moon. I wish for just one night to feel a tenth of the love you have for your warrior goddess. I said as I curled under the blanket Izuku had made for me. My mind was full of fantasies of a shared life together. I lowly felt my breathing slow as my heart sounded in my ears. I despise the gods for toying with me, but I shall never hate you, my valiant knight, Izuku. Were the last words I remember before shutting my eyes as sleep wrapped me in its warm embrace. I dreamed of many things that night, good, romantic, and bad. But I was brought out of my dreams by a slight touch on my shoulder and his voice in my ear. Lily, I've made breakfast. Haha, time to wake up. We have many things to prepare today. He whispered with a smile I could see even with my eyes closed tight. I grumbled as if I were still asleep and tossed in bed. Childish, maybe, but I didn't want to leave the bed. As I rolled over, I heard him sigh before whispering something under his breath. The next thing I knew, I felt his powerful hands grip my waist, and before I could speak, he lifted me as if I were a child. I yelped as my eyes shot open. His smirk was the first thing I saw. Ah, good morning, sleepyhead. If you had slept any longer, I'd have feared you perished. Come on, it's time to get up, he said as I grew flustered by the warm smile. I pouted as he sat me on the bed once more. It was then that I took stock of where I was. Yep, I woke up when you crawled in bed with me in your sleep last night, she said as my eyes shot up and my face went crimson. He chuckled at my embarrassment as he turned around. Sorry, Izuku. Huh, I never knew I did things like that. I spoke in a small voice as he shrugged his shoulders as I stood up. It's fine, Lily. It's not like we didn't sleep next to each other before. Bit unusual, but it's cool, he said as we both made our way to the table and one of his tasty breakfasts. We spoke a bit as we ate the strange meal. It was something he said was common in his time. Thinly cut and crispy bacon, eggs scrambled, with strange flecks of vegetables he calls peppers accompanying a bowl of oatmeal with crisp bread he called toast. I had never had such a meal before, especially first thing in the morning. I was ecstatic as I ate his cooking, a mixed feeling of excitement and fear I'd never eat this again when he leaves. I may not be a good cook, but I'd love to teach you many different recipes. That way, you can use your amazing skills to make even more delicious versions of this than I, he said between bites as he smirked to me. I squeaked as my face went red, and he burst out laughing. Ooh, you mean a mind reader, you? I barely squeaked out as he held his gut and laughed. I wolfed down my meal in order to keep from embarrassing myself more, only for him to float a book he must have been working on since we first met over to me. With a flick of his wrist, he dropped it gently next to my plate. I teared up as I read the cover. For the best cook I've ever known. Lily's Time Leaping Cookbook, I said with a bit of a sniffle as he nodded to me and finished his meal. Thank you, Izuku. I'll do my best to learn. I promise, I said with a nod. To hide my emotions. I was sure he noticed, but he made no mention of it. Shortly after, we both rose to clean up the empty plates and glasses. He mentioned I should change as he made water pour from his hand and clean the dirty dishes. With a nod, I nearly bolted to my room only to freeze at the sight on the bed. A small wooden box lay on it. One I was sure hadn't been there last night. What is this? I asked as I walked up to it. My eyes went wide as I saw a note. For all your help, and as thanks for promising to keep my secret. Thank you, Lily. I was confused as I reached for the box. The lid came off, and inside I saw something I had never expected. It was the most beautiful dress I'd ever seen in my life, along with a necklace. I reached ever so slowly into the box as one hand rubbed the necklace, and the other felt the soft fabric of a dress. It looked like the dress and jewels of a queen. Yet me, Lily, the black sheep of my family. The strange peasant who, by chance, met a godly strong boy was offered it merely for being friends to him. I don't know why he flowered me with such gifts, but I knew one thing. Izuku really did care for me. Maybe not as a lover, but if nothing else, I was a dear friend to him. The necklace had a beautiful yellow gem in the center with twin emeralds on either side. I was awestruck when I heard his voice from behind me. Ah, I hope that you like it. I've been working on it since we started our journey here, he said with a sheepish tone. I turned with eyes full of tears and a brilliant smile on my face. Thank you so much, Izuku. I love them. I squealed as he rubbed the back of his head and smiled. You're welcome, Lily. You deserve them. Besides, it was pretty easy to make once I found them. he said with a shrug before his eyes went to the dress. It matched the necklace in terms of beauty. It was a beautiful deep blue color matching my eyes, with the sleeves and neckline a paler blue. It was so soft I was sure it was really made for the queen. I love them, Izuku. But are you sure I should keep them? I asked nervously. Once more, he simply shrugged. Yeah, why not? As far as the people here know, we could be nobles given the size of this home. Nobody here knows us, so let them get jealous of your beauty and dress, he said with a devilish smirk. I giggled at his words before I lifted the dress from the box, only to notice some strange red garments remained within. Izuku must have noticed my confusion as he cleared his throat. Oh yeah, hell in my time, women wear this under their clothes. They're called underwear. The larger one with straps is a bra, and it helps hold the, a hem melons. The, other one covers the buttocks, and, he said with a blushing as I tilted my head. A thought crept into my head as I dapped the dress on the bed. Turning, I smiled at him. Well, since I don't know how to wear them, you better put them on me, Mr. Chosen One, I said with a lustfied tone as he went deep red and his mouth fell. He fidgeted as I kept my eyes locked onto his for a minute before he looked down. I really should have expected this, he grumbled as he walked up to the bed. I winked to him as I jumped for joy in my head. Yes, you should have, I answered as he took the underwear in hand, and I pulled off the sleepwear I had on. Once more I stood before the 16-year-old boy, completely naked. Only now, all embarrassment was gone. He swallowed hard as his eyes danced, taking in all of my naked flesh. Well, gonna help me put them on, or just ogle me, Izuku? For shame. Whatever shall your warrior princess think of you? I teased, making his eyes darted to mine as he flinched with a red face. His mouth opened and closed for a second before he grumbled and pointed to my feet. Okay, lift one leg, and I'll get this started. He quietly spoke out, still nervous. I nodded and lifted my leg as he knelt down. He lifted the cloth slowly and then told me to put that leg down and raise the other. I obeyed, and he quickly lifted the cloth up and told me to let my leg down. After I had done so, he told me to grab the sides where his hands were and pull the fabric up. I did as he instructed and lifted it until the fabric rested against my maidenhood. It felt strange as the cloth seemed to hold my buttocks ever so lightly, but it was itchy on the hair over my maidenhood. Izuku seemed to have noticed. Does it itch? He asked nervously. I whimpered as I did my best not to scratch it. Crud. Was hoping it wouldn't. 'Cause if it did, there's a way to take care of that. But I didn't want to scare you, he mumbled out as I tilted my head in confusion. Why would I be scared? I asked, confused as he did his best not to ogle me. A nervous smile on his face. We need to shave your pubic hair. I didn't know what that meant, and from the embarrassed look on his face, he really was doing his best not to topple over. Right? I need to cut the hair off, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want one of my swords that close to that area. My eyes went wide as I flinched from what he said. I wish I hadn't asked. I promise I'd be careful, but if we do that, it will be far more comfortable. I muttered as I looked to him for a moment. Okay, how do we do that? I asked quietly. Izuku smiled and told me to wait a minute. He vanished in a flash as I blinked at where he once stood. I don't know how long I waited before he returned with what looked like a wide wooden barrel. Remember the springs I used to make? He asked as he sat it down. It looked to be several feet wide and maybe 2 feet tall. I nodded confused as he smirked and held both hands over it. Large amounts of water poured from his hands and filled the bucket. I was wide-eyed by the action as he filled the barrel up until the water was a hand's length from the top. Okay, take those off and step into the tub. I blinked a couple of times at the words, only for him to point to the barrel again. That's what this is called. Normally, they're made from metal or ceramic, but since I can't create those things, all I did was cut down a tree and carve it into this shape. He explained as I nodded and bent down, taking the cloth off. Before I knew it, I fell over and landed on top of Izuku. We both yelped in surprise from the collision, and how we didn't fall into the tub thing, I'll never know. We broth groaned as I was having trouble getting the stupid cloth off. Hang on, I'll get them, he said before using his floaty power to pull them off. I was embarrassed as he helped me to my feet. Sorry, Izuku. I forgot to take my legs out of the cloth. Didn't I? I asked as he chuckled and stood up. Hey, it's fine. You'd never worn panties before, so I really should have expected that. Anyway, hop into the tub as I go grab one of my swords. He said as he left the room before I could ask what panties were. I sighed as I stepped into the water. Its warmth surprised me. I didn't understand how he found those hot springs every night of our journey, but now that I know he has magical powers, it makes sense. The water wasn't too hot and felt great on my skin. After I had sat down, he had come back in. Ah, looks comfortable. Huh, he said with a grin as he had brought that soap stuff and his sword. It is. You try and tell me I should bathe before we shave this hair with your sword? I asked as he shook his head. Not really. Just it's easier to get this stuff to work if you wet the hair first. Learned that one pretty quick. Huh, she said as he sat his sword on the bed before rolling the sleeves of his shirt up. I nodded, but didn't quite understand. He knelt down next to the tub as he took the soap and held it out. Okay, stand up and lather some of this on the public hair. It's not the same as the soap. It is a bit thicker than the soap, but at least when you cut the hair, it won't burn like a beach. I cocked a brow in confusion. He chuckled at me, motioning for me to stand. With a sigh, I did as asked and stood up. Reaching down, I felt the thick, soft substance. It was strange, but didn't feel disgusting, just unusual. It feels weird. It's not bad weird, just weird. Are you sure it's necessary? I asked as I brought it to my maidenhood. Well, if you don't want it to burn and itch even more, yes. Trust me, it's a lot easier and feels much better afterward. Otherwise, I could just burn it off, but, that would be way, way worse. He said with a grimace as my eyes went wide, and I nodded. Yep, this sounds better. I said as I lathered my pubic hair with it. After a minute, Izuku smiled softly and drew his sword. He locked eyes with me as he spoke. Okay, I will not cut you, but I want you to stay very still just in case. This blade is incredibly sharp. He warned as I nodded, but stood stock still. With a nod, he slowly brought the blade to the soap. I swallowed hard as he brought the blade to the skin just above it. Slowly, he dragged it down, and I could feel the hair being cut. He'd drag it down a bit at a time and raise it back up to where he started. It took a couple of minutes before he pulled the blade away and poured even more water from his hand to clean away the soap and hair. I was floored as I hadn't seen my maidenhood without the hair in a long time. It felt strange not having the hair there, but it also felt cooler. With a nod, he stood up as he held a hand out. Very well. Now time to dry you off and put them back on. It should be much more comfortable now without the pubic hair. I took his hand and stepped out of the tub with a smile. Before I could say anything, I felt the old dress I had worn under my feet, only for his hands to exude some warm air that dried me off really quick. I was beet red as he used his magics to dry me off before he handed me the panties again. With his help, I managed to get them on again. My eyes went wide as they felt snug. It cupped my buttocks just right, and this time it didn't itch. The feel of the fabric against my folds was a bit sensual. Whoa, these feel so much better without the itching, I said, making Izuku chuckle as he grabbed the thing. That's good to know. Now shall we put this on before thine queenly garb, Madam Lily? Izuku asked with a smirk as I squeaked from the unusually formal tone. Sure. Izuku, I've been naked around you for quite some time now. There's no need to be so formal. I whined out as I pouted, only for him to chuckle more. He had me put one arm through a sleeve at a time before we managed to get on. I smirked as he was helping. I like how soft this feels, but you may need to push these in there, I said with a chuckle as he blinked before looking and seeing my melons weren't covered, duplicating by the fabric. I see. I'll help with that, Izuku said as he reached back up and pulled the fabric a bit with one hand and the other on my melon. I won't lie, as soon as his hand cupped my melon, I felt warm and tingly all over. My skin had goosebumps from his simple touch. I let out a small squeak as I felt my maidenhood burn as it yearned for him. Izuku, even though he was manipulating my melons, he was kind enough to ignore it. I knew he heard me, but to his credit, his warrior goddess had the most loyal man I've ever met. Soon, his hands left my melons, and I could feel the fabric and padding holding my melons up higher than they normally were. Wow, it's not as good as your hands, but this feels great. I beamed a smile to him as he nodded with a small smile of his own. That's good to know. Now, to finish the queenly attire, he said with a grin as he helped me into my dress. It didn't take long before I was clothes, and he was putting the necklace on my neck. There we go. All done. Want to see how you look? He asked with a smile, one of pride and had rarely seen. As if he had guessed right. I nodded, and with a flick of his wrist, one of his barriers appeared. A thin barrier with a surface that allowed me to see myself. My eyes went wide at the sight in the mirror. Izuku had been right. I really did look like a noble, if not a queen myself. Aizu Izuku, is this real? I had to ask as my eyes grew watery from the vision I saw. Izuku nodded as he smiled warmly. I couldn't believe it looked as radiant as I did in the attire and jeweled necklace he gave me. Thank you, Izuku. I love it, was all I could say as his kind smile beamed bright. Izuku just nodded before he made the barrier disappear. I remember promising to help you learn all that I can. By the time I've defeated Carmilla, you will be one of the brightest minds in this era. Not just amongst women, but men as well. I was in awe at the declaration and didn't fully understand why he was going so far for a simple village girl like me. I'd understand if I were nobility, but I'm just a regular villager. I don't know why he has such faith in me, but I can't deny enjoying it. This warrior with powers that rival gods believes in me and is helping me even though he has no reason to. Whatever I did in my past to earn his belief, I am glad that he has come into my life. I couldn't contain my tears any longer and wrapped him in a hug as I wept, thanking him over and over again. I know not how long my tears flowed, but Izuku held me and whispered kind things to me. After calming down, Izuku and I exited our new home, and we went to market, searching for carpenters as well as for produce. I was showered with compliments on my six Izuku's smirk every time it happened. He was also using his mind, reading the entire time in search of any of Carmilla's soldiers, to ensure that Mardoon was safe for me. As we searched the market, though, we did come across two figures that made Izuku's rage build up. I was getting nervous as I could feel the rage boiling beneath his skin. "What is it, Izuku?" I asked in a whisper, which seemed to snap him back to his senses. He flinched before looking to me. "Those two. They're very dangerous men. They aren't Carmilla's servants, but they have done just as hideous deeds as the men that took your nephew. Tonight, I will take care of them. For now, we should hurry home with the provisions we've procured. Else, I fear I'll do something that will draw the ire of the people here," he said as he jerked his head in the direction of two knights. I wasn't sure what they've done, but if they enraged Izuku to such an extent, it can't have been good. With a nod to him, we both made our way back home. After returning and putting the provisions away, we sat and talked on the various things he was willing to help me with. Philosophy, as well as things he called mathematics and science. I was confused by the prospect, as I hadn't heard of mathematics or science before. But I had another thing I wished to learn. "Izuku, could you teach me how to fight?" I stammered out my query, making him freeze up for a moment. "You wish to learn how to fight? Why?" he asked quietly as his eyes seemed to peer into my very essence. "Because after you leave, I'll be all alone. No one to protect me, and if I can't protect myself, I fear it won't end well for me. I don't want to kill if I don't have to, but I want to be able to protect myself if I have to." I answered honestly. I think he felt both my honesty and my fears. He placed his forefinger and thumb on his chin and thought on it. After a while, he nodded. "Very well. If that is what you wish, I have no problem teaching you. But it will not be easy. You will need to get stronger if you wish to protect yourself." He answered with that same kind smile I was used to seeing. I beamed a bright smile of my own at his answer. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I would give my all to master everything he can teach me. After that, he began to show me mathematics and science. He wanted to wait for a bit to teach me how to fight so as not to overload me. Whatever that means. I will admit, math is the devil's creation, and I will die before thinking otherwise. That was very difficult to do, but I enjoyed learning science. To think many things I thought were true about this world were not at all. The future sounds like a wondrous place if it has men and women who know such things. After a while, I had to take a break, as holy hell, that was a lot to take in. I was glad he decided to wait before teaching me how to fight. "Izuku, I hate math," I murmured out as I sat across from him, fairly certain my eyes were about to pop out of my head. Izuku chuckled at that. Huh. Well, to be honest, I never really enjoyed it myself either. But math has many benefits. Not as much as science and medicine, though. I nodded as smoke shot from my ears and the top of my head. If I walk around naked, will you stop teaching me math? I asked with a nervous smile on my face. Only for Izuku to shake his head no on my question. No, not that it wouldn't enjoy seeing that. I was almost moved to tears at that response. Rats. I had to try. This stuff better be helpful, or I'll find a way to make it to your time and beat you. I pouted, making him burst out laughing. Ha ha. Phew. Sorry, Lily. Trust me, you'll get the hang of it. It just takes a while and lots of effort, but in the end, it's helpful. Izuku said as I crossed my arms and gave a mock glare. Fine, but if that's the case, you gotta give me a baby to make up for it. I said as he froze with a look of confusion and horror on his face. Oh, what with the who now? He asked, making me grin viciously as I stood up and slowly walked towards him, bending at the waist to level my eyes with his own. You heard me, Izuku. If I have to work so hard, you best give me a child as rewards for it. I said with a lustful tone as he began sweating like mad. I reached towards him and ran a finger down his cheek all the way to his chest. I could see the nerves and lust waging war within his jade pools. He even released a low primal growl that had my maidenhood growing wetter by the second. He wiped his lips before shaking his head once more as if to snap himself from an illusion. Haha. Sorry, Izuku, but that was so much fun. I cheered, making his eyes go wide before pouting back at me. That's dirty pool, Lily. What if I'd taken you up on that? He demanded as I was laughing like crazy. I froze for a second, then smirked to him. Then I'd have rocked your world, I said, while fighting a full-body blush. Izuku probably wasn't expecting that as his mouth was left gaping. I won't lie, I'd definitely have enjoyed making the beast with two backs had he agreed. After calming down, I stood up and stretched with my elbows back and knees popping. Izuku grumbled to himself as he ran a hand down his face. Anyway, I'm about to head out and see if I can hunt something and pick us up some meat to go with the produce. I'll be back as soon as I can, he said before picking up his swords. I waved and bid him a safe hunt as he warped away. Still gonna take some getting used to, but I must admit I love the things he's been teaching and showing me. He's one of the few people who has been willing to help and teach me. My life has changed so much, and I've many paths open for me thanks to my godly warrior from the future. I hope he can truly slay Carmilla, but I wish evermore that I shall be able to accompany him to his time. Even if the world has been overrun by monsters, I know Izuku, his girl Momo, and their friend Melissa will save it. I just wish I too could join that fight. But I know he will vanish and I will be left all alone. Maybe, just maybe he could grant at least one of my wishes before he leaves. If so, then I know his fight for the planet will be much easier in the end. But I know that will never happen. Sigh. Curse the gods for making me fall for such a hero. My best path forward is to learn everything he can teach me, from education to fighting. Then I will create my own path once he leaves, even if I end up all alone. I know not the future, but I hope my desire to aid his time comes to pass. Phew, with that, Chapter 9 has come to a close. Okay, kinda cappy, but better than nothing, yeah? Oi, quiet you editor-san. Holy cow, stop raping that dragon before you make the narrator-san angry. Oh no, he's right behind me, isn't he? Farewell, dear readers. Wish for our survival. Please? Oh dear God, is that King Ghidorah? Well, we're right screwed, aren't we? Tune in next time, if we survive. So, this was the end of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.